Okay, alright, we're gonna fix this. We're gonna fix this. We're gonna fix this. I don't know how, though. That's the tricky thing. Okay. Alright, we're in. Alright. That's good enough. Oh, man. Okay. Shit, I need a... Why is the background like this? Just the camera sometimes does this, and then I don't really know what the clear fix is. I think I might have to upgrade. Because it's giving me the option for... or update. Okay. Alright. No, we're not doing points. The stream has been live. Technical difficulties don't count as... I'm not giving you guys any points. I was there. I was here. The people know I was here. Oh, god damn it. Alright, well, let's do this one more time. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Alright. Please work this time. How am I now? Yes! Alright. Good stuff. We did it. Okay. Alright, everybody. Sorry about that. These are, you guys don't know, but these are the technical difficulties that afflict every streamer. There's not a single streamer that doesn't have these same exact issues every single stream. Real Linskov! Good to see you, man. Okay, so I know what happened from the other side of things. So Real Linskov actually... Okay, well, I'll just... Hold on. Hey, Morge, made a new friend recently. You'll never guess who. Loving the flashback so far, but what are you looking forward to the most when we get back? So, Real Linskov, the images finder for my channel, Magnus, messaged me recently saying that he had run into one of my stream viewers, like a long time, like a top-level supporter, who knew me, and he said, do you know Real Linskov? I was like, yeah, I know Real Linskov. And then I shared a little bit of the backstory as to the Real Linskov versus fake Linskov mix-up. But that's funny. Small world. Yeah, that's cool. That's just, it's funny that came up. And, yeah. Yeah, so that's funny that came up. I don't know. That's a small world. I wonder how many times somebody who's like a long-term person in my stream meets like another person who's like a long-term viewer of my stream. I think I've almost myself in real life, I've met people who recognize me, but usually not people who are like somebody whose name I would recognize right off the bat, like as a regular viewer of streams and stuff like that. Jordan Vance says, how many points in total we have now? We have 149. 149. So it's tight stuff. We really can't get that last point. Mr. Saturn Lo-Fi, thanks. What if Emu's possession of Gunko at God Valley sparked chaos, forcing Roger, Garp, and Rox into battle? Dami Reversi Rox, how much does Garp know? So I talked about this last stream. I think that there's basically two options. I think that either Emu came down in Gunko form, and then they all had to fight, they all teamed up to fight Emu, or Emu came down briefly, Dami reversied Rox, and then they all fought Rox. I think those are the two options. Rox getting Dami reversied would be very sad, in my opinion, just based on, like, you know, his whole story was built around him trying to defeat Emu and everything, and, like, being free, being king of the world, yada yada, and then going out basically as a slave. That'd be really tragic. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick, but it would parallel, obviously, the storyline with Harold. And how much does Garp know? So Garp definitely doesn't let on much about that, because Sengoku speculated that Garp doesn't let on much about that because Garp doesn't want to talk about having to side with pirates and things like that, but I think it's largely because there's bigger secrets that were unveiled right there that Garp doesn't want to share, you know? Sengoku is a true bum who doesn't know jack shit. At this point in the world, it's just like, what the like, not a God Valley. Clearly he was a far lesser Marine than Garp for a long part of their tenure, and Sengoku kind of caught up later. I used to think Garp was like, how do I say this? or sorry, I used to think I'm dropping Sengoku from my rankings, by the way. Like he's going down some slots because I used to feel like Sengoku was like Sengoku and Garp were, if you compare other duos, right, like Roger Rayleigh or something like that. I used to think that Sengoku was closer in level to Garp than like more like equal partners or something than like a typical like captain first mate type thing. I thought that Sengoku and Garp were like just about equal. With Garp being some spots higher, obviously, but Sengoku like pretty damn close behind. Now I've revised my opinion. Definitely revised my opinion. I think that Sengoku definitely not as strong as like Prime Rayleigh. Like Prime Sengoku, Prime Rayleigh, no question. Like Rayleigh's the fucking secondary protagonist of this whole God Valley incident after Rocks, while Sengoku's not even invited to the party. It literally says all the strongest men of the seas showed up at God Valley. Sengoku fucking nowhere to be found, and he's pretty fucking old at this point. Like this isn't an excuse. So it's just like, and you just see the flashback of like Garp talking to Sengoku, Kong, Suru, or whatever. Sengoku's a bum. Now I think more so that Garp Sengoku is actually more like Helmeppo Kobe. I think it's more like that type of gap. It's just that Garp is so fucking great that his Helmeppo is still good enough to become Fleet Admiral of the Marines, you know? Sully, thanks for joining Pirate King tier. I have not recorded the Pirate King podcast yet, so if you still want to squeeze that in, you can still squeeze that in, but this is like literally last call. There's no more last call after this. So if you want to get yours in, for those of you who don't know, Pirate King podcast is the monthly podcast that I do for a top tier of patrons and YouTube members, obviously. And it's one where you can submit any question that you have about One Piece, other anime, manga, TV, yada, 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 real life, NBA, whatever. You can ask all those questions, and I answer them very, very in-depth, much more in-depth than I have time to on stream. So if you want to join that, then please feel free to. So Sully, thanks a lot for the support. And Fading Phase, thanks as well, a long-term supporter. Thanks for rejoining. I appreciate it. Let's get Streamlights up to 50, and Fading Phase, you also. There's still time to squeeze in joining, or not squeeze in, but if you want to get in your Pirate King podcast submission, then feel free. So Fading Phase said, I'm excited to watch your monthly podcast again. They're my favorite videos outside the Wano analysis. What are your top 3 favorite character designs? Top 3 favorite character designs is a great question. I could do a character designs tier list, but if I were to say top 3 favorite character designs off the top of my head, I think Kaido, number 1. Kaido 1, maybe Katakuri 2. Shit, top 3 favorite designs in One Piece ever. I really like the Gorosei designs as a group. Don't know if any of them individually, like in their Zoan forms, I don't know if any of them individually, maybe Venus Juro. I don't know if anyone individually cracks it. Kaido, Katakuri. Shit. Maybe Mihawk, maybe Doflamingo. I'd say that, but I feel like I might be forgetting some characters. I definitely feel like I'm forgetting some characters. Like, there's some badass characters, like a lot of really badass character designs in One Piece. Let's say that for now, and then if people suggest some others, yeah. King, I think King's design is really cool. I think King's design is really, really cool. I think his design with his face is you know what it is with King? So I think his design with his face, like his mask off, is a little bit like his initial design is really cool with the mask on. I think mask off is a little bit even cooler, but I think design, a lot of the impact is when you initially see them. So it's kind of like I'm already got used to King's design, and then he went mask off, and it's like, oh, he's even cooler as a character, but I'm already used to the design to some degree, right? So let's say King was introduced mask off the way that he was initially, then it'd be like, oh shit, this is like maybe then I'd put him like top 3 right off the bat, like Katakuri. I don't really have to think about. Yeah. It's kind of like Kaido's hybrid design is really, really sick, but like I'm already kind of used to it because I've already seen Kaido himself. So when I say like Kaido's design is really cool, I think of his initial design, not his hybrid form design. But yeah, Fading Phase, thanks for joining again. You say you're excited. You said, I'm excited to watch your monthly podcast again. They're my favorite videos outside the Wano analysis. Thank you for the glowing review. And I do genuinely really enjoy doing the monthly podcasts because that's where I get to be at my most unfiltered. That's where you will see me at my most unfiltered because it's for the most niche group. And I know that everybody that's a Pirate King level person basically really wants to hear everything unfiltered as much as possible. So that's where I can kind of just and the questions are the most varied. So it's not just one piece. It's lots of stuff that I'd find genuinely really fun to talk about. So yeah, if you guys are interested in checking that out, then of course. But I appreciate the long-term support, Fading Phase. Bassem El Madawi, I also appreciate the long-term support from you. Thanks for the 5. I feel like the lights in the... Does anyone feel like the lighting is really dim here? I feel like the lighting's really dim. I need to get better lighting in this room. I feel like that light bulb might need to be changed soon. Bassem El Madawi, thanks for the 5. 1 dragons choose... Okay, we're getting into the thing. Let's get into this shit. So Bassem is predicting dragon's fruit, lost fruit, Loki's, and Katakuri's mistaken as the gum gum fruit. Have you heard the theory of rocks getting Dami reversey? It seems good. Yeah. People have been mentioning that since last stream. I really hope it doesn't happen just because it's so fucking sad to think about. But it is, of course, a very real possibility. Hold on. Value double fruits. I'll share this with you guys in a second. Predicting all 9 fruits. What's interesting is that to date, we still do not actually know either of the 2 fruits that Rox was interested in. I think it's an interesting choice that Oda chose to still keep that hidden. This is going to be incorrect. I got to add in the other video device. Hold on. There we go. Yeah. Let's get rid of this shit. Okay. Predicting all 9 fruits. Here we go. Okay, so one that was mentioned was the Ope Ope no Mi. I think that that's a solid possibility if like Rox is meant to survive or something, because the personality transplant surgery is very, very interesting as a possibility, right? Here, so let's do a little word bank, right? So I think ones that we think are interesting are Ope Ope no Mi. This is a lot of fun because we got the things that we can speculate, right? We know Kaido's fruit is in there. Kaido's fruit. Kuma's... Okay, confirmed. Let's say confirmed, right? So first we'll go with confirmed. Let's do confirmed. Confirmed. 1. Kaido's fruit. Kuma's fruit, right? Yeses. Ope Ope no Mi. Katakuri's fruit, right? I can't say Big Mom... Okay. Big Mom's kids' fruits. So let's see some guesses, right? We got to get into some guesses. Let's see the mochi. Maybe it's the we can put down mochi fruit. So what does Big Mom say specifically? She says these fruits would be perfect for my kids, right? Let me read the chapter again. Let me read the viz. Behenort, since my dream is to have a PhD, right now I'm doing actual research to try to come up with an idea for a paper that will give me points, but I still can take a break for Morge. Came up with a bachelor thesis BTW. That's awesome. That sounds like great progress. The PhD process is like, because I know multiple people that have gone through the ringer for the PhD. My cousin... there's road, like it's a difficult one, but it's from the people I've heard, it's very satisfying to actually achieve it. My cousin, my next door neighbor, my dad has a PhD, but he doesn't talk much about the process for that. I think it was actually maybe relatively pain-free for him, because he was always very good at that sort of shit. Well, not to say everybody who gets a PhD is very good at that sort of shit, but I think for my dad, it was a very smooth sort of process. But I know that like the climb to PhD is very difficult, but yeah, very, very rewarding. And then people have to call you doctor. Not really. I don't call anybody. Almost no one calls my dad doctor, or anybody that I know doctor, who has a PhD, but technically it's in front of your name, and that'll always be a thing. Zerzer Flivens, thanks for the 5. Somers might have been the Celestial Dragon to have Boa as their slave and fetter the Merimere no Mi since he wanted Shaki's love themes. Oh, that'd be kind of crazy. That would be crazy. You know, the Merimere fruit is actually an interesting idea because we know it was in the hands of a Celestial Dragon. Hold on. Gustavo Chavez, thanks for the 5. I'm excited to see if God Valley shows relationship dynamics of Garp and Dragon. Yeah, I think that'll be... So what's interesting is that it doesn't seem like Dragon benefits from any form of nepotism because nobody talks about him like he's, oh, you're the kid of like Garp the hero, the strongest Marine or anything. He's just treated like a normal-ass rookie. I still see some people argue that he's not Garp's actual son, but it seems like he must be, right? Monkey, same last name, same surname or whatever. And they probably will get some sort of interaction there, right? I wonder if this is the part where Dragon officially breaks from the Marines, but then I wonder what exactly it is he goes on to do. Julian Reed, thanks for the 2. Is it crazy to say Elbaf is a top 1 arc already? Is it crazy to... I mean, it's up to... I'm never ever going to put an arc as top 1 before it finishes. That's just me. Like, because you can be really, really loving an arc, and then it can just be thrown out the window. Or not thrown out the window, but, like, it can fall some spots depending on how it concludes, right? Like, I was going to give some examples of things, not One Piece, but it's no point. Slinging mud is unbecoming, right? So, yeah, I'm never going to say something's like top 1 right off the bat, like that, but I still think Elbaf has, like, a lot of storytelling to go. It's currently, at the pace that it's going and the things that are happening, it's my favorite arc post-time skip. I really, really fucking love the flashback that we're in, and I love what Oda was doing with all the characters and story setup in Elbaf even before we got into this flashback. So, yeah, I love Elbaf so far. I don't know if I'd call it top 1, but like it's on the trajectory that it would be at least my favorite arc from the post-time skip and possibly one of my favorite arcs of all time. JK Kane, thanks for the 2. Love long-term supporting my GOAT. JK Kane, thank you for the long time support, man. Suzelles, thanks for the 5. I hereby submit a formal petition to use 25 late points for you to watch the first episode of Blue Lock and put it to the upstanding residents of chat for vote. Sure, I can do that. I'd be happy to fucking do that. Get 25 late points. I shouldn't even tell you guys I'm happy to do that. Would you like to spend 25 late points for me to watch episode 1 of Blue Lock? By the way, I finished the first episode of Gachiuda. I've changed my mind. I literally just had to... For those of you who might remember, I was complaining about Gachiuda earlier being very, very generic because I didn't finish the first episode. All I could say... So, like, over the course of the first episode, right, several things, it's just a lot of cliches crammed into the first, 12, 13 minutes. So it was like... the poor city and the full of trash, and then the rich city, and they're separated by a border, and then the poor city obviously suffers because of the class, whatever, right? So it's like, okay, generic setup, and then on top of that, you got, the hero who's an outcast, like other kids are mean to him, bully him, yada yada. Okay, so another thing, and then his dad is dead, but he's raised by a parental whatever figure, and there's a generic anime girl that is his childhood friend that likes him and shows kindness to him even though he gets bullied, and he has this one special possession, this rabbit thing that he wants her to have, and it's his treasure or whatever, and then his father figure dies at the end of the first, or dies, okay? This is not big spoilers. This all happens in the first, 12 minutes, okay? It's very... if anything, I'm helping you get through the boring shit, okay? So I was like, this is cliche after cliche after cliche after cliche. Don't like this stuff. Don't like the main character. This is boring, and there's no interesting power system, okay? So I stopped watching literally right after his father figure gets killed because I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Okay. Then I picked up watching a little bit more, and the first thing that happened that made me feel like, oh shit, I might actually like this show is the he's screaming, he's like, I didn't do it, please believe me, and then he's yelling to his female love interest, the generic female love interest or whatever, like, I didn't kill my dad or whatever, you gotta believe me or whatever. And then she doesn't believe him. She's actually like, you're a murderer, and she throws away the toy that he gave her. And right away I was like, oh shit, fucking Sakura doesn't like him anymore. That's crazy. So I actually like that right away, because I was like, okay, that's actually a bit more hard hitting than you normally see with episode 1 and like, you know, Deku and whatever her name is, or it's not always literally episode 1, but like you've seen this type of thing a million times before, so I'm like, okay, that's actually a surprise. I'd be really fucking pissed if I was this dude. And then he's getting thrown into the abyss, and his thought process is literally like, his goal is literally like, I want to go back up there and kill everybody who fucking did this to me. And I'm like, this is fun. This is a little different. This is a more fun goal for a main character that I could get behind, because I'm pissed for him too. He didn't kill his dad, and everyone was a giant asshole to him, and they threw him into this pit where he now has to fight all these fucking monsters or whatever. So I'm like, okay, I'm on his side now. I like this character. Yeah. So Gachiuda changed my mind. I'm probably gonna keep watching. End of the episode is like him fighting some giant like trash monsters and stuff. I still don't like the trash setting that much. I think it's kind of weird, but the setting, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. I also don't know how he has super strength. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. Okay. So we're not doing the blue lock thing, but that's interesting. He's this messy says edgy. I mean, like, if the options are between like a show that felt like a shit ton of cliches versus a show that like at least is a little bit more has a little bit more bite to it, I'm cool with that. Obviously, like, I want to kill everybody isn't like the most, because society was mean to me. That's not like the most unique setup either. But by shonen standards, it is. By shonen standards, oh my god, by shonen standards, it is, right. It's like, Luffy, what's your dream? To become king of the pirates. Naruto, what's your dream? To become Hokage and stuff. What's your... I don't even know the main character's name. Gachiuda, what's your dream? It's like, to kill everybody from my hometown. It's like, okay, cool. I'm down to follow that guy. Okay, continuing on. Sizzles, thanks for the 5. I hereby submit... Oh, no, we covered this. Rian Azar, good to see you. Thanks for the 5. Rock's getting Dami'd actually makes sense to me to explain why we needed a Garp and Roger team up 2v1 on him. Base Rocks doesn't seem to be that crazy. It's hard to say because we haven't seen... he hasn't been stacked up against anybody. The only character he's also fought... We know he low-diffed... Can't say low-diffed. We know he murdered an admiral, right? Which to me means he low-diffed him because, again, you have to lose a fight really, really hard to die in One Piece. Like, you just have to lose a fight so incredibly bad to actually die. It's like Rocks had to do to that admiral what Akainu did to Ace, basically, right? That's basically what had to have happened. But anyway, regardless, besides the point, we know Rocks is at least above admiral level. That's all we really know. Because we don't see him fight anybody else noteworthy, interestingly enough, outside of Herald. But then the tricky thing is, Herald is also a character that's... the only person he scales to is Rocks, right? So we don't know exactly, right? Like, we got the sense earlier in the flashback that Rocks is probably way ahead of, like, Roger and stuff, but then we got the bar scene, which seems to portray them as, like... Portrayal doesn't mean everything, obviously, but, like, it's just them arguing in the bar, but it does feel like, okay, maybe Rocks and Roger, maybe they're actually, like, roughly equal footing or something like that at this point. We don't know. We don't know in the story just yet. We gotta wait and see. But that's the tricky thing. Outside of saying Rocks defeat an admiral, we don't really know where he stacks to any other, like, forget modern day characters. That's the funny thing. We don't even know how he stacks to, like, the old legends, right? So we can assume he's stronger than anybody else in the Rocks Pirates right now, but they're also not in their primes just yet. Yeah, that's just the tricky thing with scaling Rocks, right? So, like, my assumption is, so far, that he's the strongest character of this era that's not Emu, and is tied with Herald. but we do need a bit more to really solidify what that looks like in compared to things that happened like 40 years later, you know? I have a feeling that that might be part of why Imu's going to come down here, right? Because we get to see some battle with these old characters against Gunko Imu, and we'll get to draw a comparison to how Luffy and company do against Gunko Imu in the modern day, right? So that's the easiest way to have standard measuring sticks. And yeah, I get the Dami Reversi aspect of like, you know, Rocks get Dami Reversi, they team up, they fight Dami Reversi'd Rocks. I do agree that that's very, very likely to happen. And that's very possibly why Garp will feel shame over the incident and not want to talk about it. I hope that we see at least Rocks and Roger teaming up against Imu first. I would love to see that. Pocket Monster, thanks for the 10. Do you think it's possible that Rocks fights Garp because he goes after Dragon? Love your content. I think one family wins the love fruit and later makes Boa eat it. Yeah, so we got the Marimar no Mi in there. That's a good idea. Rocks fights Garp because he goes after Dragon. Rocks fights Garp because he goes after Dragon. Yeah, I do think that is a solid possibility. No. Why would Rocks go after Dragon, though? That's an interesting idea. Maybe because Dragon gets his hands on Teach. Maybe Dragon tries to help Teach also, and then Rocks misinterprets that. I don't know. There's so many question marks. That's what makes God Valley so juicy right now. Sean Easton, thanks for being a long-time supporter and a Pirate King tier member for 28 months, man. Not sure if anyone asked this stream yet. Has asked the stream yet. Are you playing Silk Song? Also, my guesses are Phoenix, Mochi, and Brook at Nika Fruits. Oh, Phoenix Fruit. Yeah, I've seen some people mention Phoenix Fruit. Phoenix Fruit. Book Fruit. Yeah, that's another solid possibility. Why do you think Book Fruit instead of the other fruits? Because the Book Fruit, I feel like whatever fruit it is, it'll be one of the early Sun's fruits. Because, so I'm going to take Book Fruit off. Because I don't think Book Fruit will be in there. Because, is Monteor, what's the order of Big Mom's kids? Order of Big Mom's kids. Let's see. Charlotte family. Does Perispero already have his candy fruit? Yeah, Monteor is not for some time. So I figure it'd be like more so the early kids, right? Because if she gets a fruit, right, there's not really a real reason that she'd be like, I'm going to hold on to this fruit for like my 17th kid or something like that, instead of just giving it to the kid that she already has. The kids that she already has, you know? Unless she really fucking dislikes those kids for some reason. But I'm going to say Mochi fruit makes sense. I still think it's wild that Big Mom, just because she wants to have like food-themed shit, she'd pick the Mochi fruit for Katakuri when she could give him like literally any other far better. Like, Katakuri would probably be sitting there being like, looking at Marco with the fucking Phoenix fruit. And is like, what the fuck, Mom? Like, 80% of what makes Marco a strong fighter is his fucking Phoenix fruit. Whereas for me, I gotta make do with my stupid-ass Mochi fruit. And, like, I gotta get really good at hockey and shit like that to make up for this. To use it effectively. As for Silk Song, no. Because I haven't even played Hollow Knight. I think I've shared this on stream before, but I played a bit of Hollow Knight. And I could tell it was, like, a really cool game. I played Hollow Knight until I fought... I want to call her Silk Song. Hornet, right? Until I beat that character. And then I think the world opened up some more and I dropped the game. Just because I was playing it at a time that, like, I needed to be very, very... it was during COVID. And one of my roommates had recommended it to me. But this was during a period of time that I was very, very stressed. Had a shit ton of work. I was still getting the YouTube channel up and running. So I was doing, like, a lot of work on the channel, and I had a part-time job as a court clerk, and I still had marketing agency work that I was having to do, so it was just like a lot of shit at the same time. So Hollow Knight was, I could tell it was a fun game, and I could tell that I would probably enjoy it the more I put into it, but I was just not in a state where, like, I wanted to, like, in between doing a lot of work, go and play a stressful game as well, or, like, not stressful, but, like, just like a demanding game, right? And it was also a game, like, I hadn't played any Souls games or anything like that at that point in time. The only games, single-player games I'd played were, like, Zelda games. Not even, like, the harder stuff like Breath of the Wild or whatever, like, older Zelda games, right? Zelda games, some Mario. That was the only single-player games I'd really played. So, Hollow Knight, where you're playing, and, like, if you die, then you essentially have to do the run back to get all your souls. I didn't even understand that was like a Dark Souls concept in Hollow Knight. I was just experiencing that for the first time. So yeah, I just found it to be like not a relaxing game, and it was also a game that didn't have any things. Like from what I remember, there was no map or anything like that. So I'd play it, then maybe go like a couple days without playing it, then hop in and I have to reorient myself and everything. It was just not the right time, not the right place. I guess. But I was always like, oh, I'll probably go back and play it at some point in the future. And then I never did. But maybe that's because I started actually playing Souls games and stuff later. So, I don't know. And anytime I pick up a single-player game that's actually very good, I get very engrossed. And then I lose a lot of productivity. But I've heard good things about Silksong. Let's get the Streamlux up to 100 real quick. Elijah Petty, thanks for the 2. Would Pell's passing block Crocodile's redemption? No, because I don't think it should be contingent on Pell dying, because Crocodile also killed him, like, probably a shit ton of other people, right? And I don't think it's about Crocodile's redemption, really. Crocodile ultimately is the last character that needs to be redeemed out of all the... Not the last, but he's not the most important character to be redeemed out of all that. I feel like Robin is probably the character that needed to be redeemed quite a bit, but we all just gotta let it slide, because we're like, well, she was suicidal. She was doing crazy things during that period of time, I don't think you can tell the people of Alabasta that, especially the ones that died of the drought, I imagine a lot of people died in Alabasta over the course of that before the war even started, because I don't think it would have gotten to the point of civil war if people weren't already basically beginning to drop like flies. And then you get the war itself. I imagine some people died over the course of that, right? Because the battle only went on for like, a couple days, or like not a couple days, but like a day or so. But there were probably like some instances before that. And then in the battle itself, probably some people died, So Robin probably really, she's the one that we're actually trying to treat as the good guy character now, right? Crocodile's still morally gray, right? So Robin's the one that needed a lot of redemption. And you know what? I don't think she ever really did any redemption shit. I don't think she ever made it up to the people of Alabasta or whatever, right? She sacrificed herself for the Straw Hats. That was the big thing that she was choosing to do, right? So we know that she's a good person at heart. She was just, she was just, we kind of just excuse we kind of just excuse Robin shit, and she's like, well, she's a good person because, like, she just, we just want her to be, and the past is the past is the past. Although Robin herself would argue that the past is not the past, and it's important to remember history. But for us, the reader, in the context of her, the past is the past. And you know what's funny is, like, the world government really wants to hunt her down and everything, and it's like, and like the whole idea is that it's super unjustified because it's like she was this 8-year-old girl that did all this terrible stuff, and she's like the demon of Ohara and everything like that. And it's like, no, she's not. She didn't kill those Marine soldiers or whatever. She's not a demon of Ohara. Leave her alone. What she did do is drive a nation to civil war and likely kill at least hundreds or thousands in the process without ever giving a shit. But she didn't do that other shit at Ohara, that's for sure. And so we're going to save her. Because if Oda just reframed the whole thing as like, okay, well, maybe she didn't do... Like, if Oda brought up her other crimes, then it might be a little bit harder to get behind, like, the Straw Hats going all the way to Enies Lobby to save her. Like, if every time Spandam brought up, like, she did this as an 8-year-old child, she blew up the people of Ohara, Spandam also added in, she was responsible for X number of deaths over the course of the Alabasta incident, and X number of people, like, 1 million people died of drought or whatever over the course of, like, Alabasta's last couple of years or something. If he brought up the other crimes in conjunction every time, I think it wouldn't feel exactly the same. So we got to leave those out. We essentially erased Robin's history from that period of time. And we also did it for another character, which is Mr. 2. Why? Because he's just this goofy ass Okama dude. So it's kind of like he literally shows up at the Straw Hats ship at the end of the arc, and they're like, "You're like a bad dude that like genuinely were the centerpiece of this whole operation because he was the one that framed the king and everything like that." And it's like, you're like a really bad dude, and you were trying to kill Vivi right down to the end. And it's like, forget it, because we're friends. And they're like, all right, I guess so. And then that's just the way we roll from there, you know? Anyway. Narakami says, I don't know, man. These characters aren't heroes. They're not, but we are meant to feel like they're good people, right? Heroes is very different from good people. We are meant to be reading this being like, okay, Sanji's like actually a very good person. Usopp's a good person. Nami's a good person. Zoro, he seems like a bad person early on, but the idea is that Luffy sees through that and realizes that he's a good person. Luffy is supposed to be treated as a good person. Not as a hero, but he's supposed to be like a major recurring point in One Piece. Many points throughout the story is that Luffy has a very good heart, right? So to accept that stuff, Oda also has to kind of downplay that their stuff. Like, Robin probably did the most unforgivable shit outside of the Straw Hats. Anyway, Henchme976 says, well, Mr. 2 had to die for redemption, so that's fair. I don't think he died, though. Right, he's still confirmed to be alive. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Hold on. Let's catch up here. Mr. MMF2, thanks a lot. Yo, Morjussi, I know the algorithm will be all fucked, but one video a week isn't enough with how crazy these chapters have been. Also, how's the shoulder? I'm still going to stick to one video a week. The shoulder's all good. Thank you very much. I did actually re-aggravate it once when I was flying because I fell asleep in a way that I slept in a way that aggravated the shoulder. But the shoulder's been really good. No issues for a long time. For months. And one video a week. I prefer doing one video a week still. The good news is that we get breaks, right? So I've read that after chapter 1160 we'll get another break. So, you know, there'll be 2 videos to fill that break period. But I know what you mean, because like nowadays with the chapters, so much crazy shit happening, it's like I want to do a video on this. At the same time, it's also crazy because everything is happening so fast that it can be almost dangerous to try and make a video that's a little bit speculative on something. Like, if I did a video on, here's what I believe the 9 fruits are going to be at God Valley, right? It's crazy because, like, literally next chapter we could just find out what all of those fruits are, and then it's just done, right? If I did a video on, like, there's so many topics I could do a video on right now that I'm like, I think this could happen, I think this could happen, but the video would have a very short shelf life, like, essentially, like, a few days before the next chapter comes out, so I have to second guess. For example, like really good example, Davy Jones, right? I did a video on Davy Jones shit like 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago. And within the next chapter or so, like I think a bit more, like, yeah, I think 2 chapters later, like the most recent chapter, we got some reveals about the Davy clan. So that's the tricky thing, because it's like there's so much to talk about, but also we have no idea what we're going to get next. So it's like, what's the smart thing to talk about? That's why next chapter it's largely about, tomorrow's video is more of an analysis video. It's about Dragon. Just pumping the brakes on theory stuff to just focus on character writing. Dick so small it pissed on my balls. Thanks for the 5. I think Harold will rip his horns out as an apology to Rocks, and the God Valley will showcase the power of love. Maybe Dragon will meet Tritoma here. That's a really cool idea. If Dragon rips his horns out for that, that's a really, really cool idea. I don't know what that would symbolize to Rocks necessarily, because if I'm Rocks, I'd just be like, I didn't ask you to do that, man. Because from my perspective, that'd be like if a friend of mine betrays me or something, and I'm pissed at them, and then they show off, and then they show up and they just tear their arm off or something as an apology, I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? I don't want to be your friend if you're going to do shit like that, you know? That's my opinion. But in One Piece, maybe that's like a crazy, impressive, like noble thing to do. Who knows? Like if your friend just shows up and is like, I'm sorry, man, and then begins mutilating themselves, I feel like it's a weird look. But let's just wait and see. Maybe Dragon will meet Tritoma here. Yeah, because some people were talking about that, which was the Kuja pirates, like Gloriosa showing up. So wouldn't the Kuja pirates also want to show up? and Tritoma is currently the captain. So that's a really, really interesting guess. I also would like if that's where Dragon meets Tritoma, because this is before Dragon is like a great man, you know? Because like, I just think it's cooler if Dragon is just his normal like self. Dragon might be strong right now, we don't know. But I like the idea that Dragon's just like a Marine rookie with no real status and hasn't really begun carving out his own path or anything like that. And just through his actions, Tritoma really falls for him, you know? Meek, thanks for the 5. Hey, how's the stream? Cool thought. Dragon probably put Shanks in chest and took its fruit. Luffy took Shanks' chest and ate its fruit. Connections. Ooh, Luffy took Shanks' chest and ate... Oh, yeah. That's a good... Fuck, I forgot. Dragon's fruit. We're putting that in there. Dragon's fruit. That's a solid Dragon's fruit. Okay, so let's make our guesses based on what we think is the most likely, right? So I think Dragon's fruit, very likely. I think a lot of people are on board with the idea that, you know, powerful fruit. This is supposed to be 3, yeah. So Dragon's fruit we think is very likely. I think Mochi fruit, like something for Big Mom's kids, seems likely, right? Yeah. Yeah, it just makes sense. Dragon is trying to find something to put Shanks in, opens up a chest, puts Shanks in there, and he's like, fuck it, I'll eat the fruit if it's there. Elijah Petty, thanks for the 5. I remember theories that Rocks killed both slaves and celestial dragons indiscriminately. Roger's really looking like the douche in this flashback. Looking like the douche so far. But, yeah, so far Roger does look like the douche. He definitely does look like the douche. I do think Oda will redeem him by the end of this, but at the moment, he does look like a douche. That is one thing that Garp said, which is that Roger was really like a child in the way that he acted and thought. And the Roger that we see during Odin's flashback, that's like the mature version of Roger. And even that guy's kind of a goofball. So this Roger, I feel like, is even, I don't know, very, very headstrong. Seemingly, he's kind of arrogant and kind of full of himself a little bit too. And really has like a... a childish mentality of like the way he thinks is kind of like a kid too. But I think Roger will be made likable by the end of this. Dick so small I piss on my balls. Thanks for the 5. Barrier, Mane, and Orochi's will be there. Those are good ideas. That's where the Kurozumi hag gets Shiki's face. A kid in 1159 looks like Moria, so maybe Kage too. That's interesting. And they just, you think Kaido steals those and they end up in Wano maybe? Barrier, fruit, Mane, Nomi. I don't know about Orochi's fruit though. Sure, let's these are guesses, right? So we'll rank our guesses towards the end. I could put in Kage Nomi, but I don't know. Nerve AMV Maker, thanks for the 5. Sengoku honestly seems stronger than Garp during Marineford, but I guess that wouldn't be the only example of inconsistent portrayal of that arc. I think it was established that like Garp really was viewed by people as like the top dog Marine during that time. Like he's the hero of the Marines. He's like the guy that they all look up to as the legend. He's the one Marine that like Whitebeard kind of talks to as an equal. Although Whitebeard references Sengoku frequently, but that's because Sengoku is also the boss, so like he's technically the commander of the Marines. I did get the sense always that Garp was treated as higher than Sengoku, but it always felt to me like it's kind of like this, like neck and neck. Like if Garp's stronger, but like it's not like a big gap or anything like that. But now it really does feel like it to me. It feels like it's Kobe Helmeppo shit, and it's just like later on Helmeppo became strong enough that like he's really respectable himself. Like Sengoku, obviously an admiral level character, but Garp, you know, still clearly well ahead. There's also one thing that people don't talk about. Garp's the only character to damage Marco outside of Blackbeard, which is kind of crazy, right? He did that casually at Marineford. Akainu couldn't do it. Kizaru couldn't do it. Like, Garp at Marineford still had more attack power than the Prime Admirals, you know? It's also one thing to consider that Sengoku so Oda does, like, one of the other reasons that I feel like Sengoku was somehow closer to his prime at Marineford than Garp was to his prime. Because, for a couple reasons, I think when Oda wants to portray that a character has physically declined, Oda tries to make that very clear, right? So, like, Sengoku post-time skip is now he's, like, gray-haired and just depicted differently. Whereas Sengoku at Marineford and pre-time skip, he still seems like you wouldn't be able to tell that he's old as fuck. Like he's still got black hair, still looks like in shape and everything like that. It's post-time skip. It seems like Oda's kind of trying to portray Sengoku's having maybe fallen off a little bit. Whereas with Garp, Garp's got the old man look already. It's repeatedly commented on in Marineford, before Marineford, that Garp's lost his physical strength. And then the last part of it is that Sengoku has a devil fruit. Garp is just a physical fighter, right? So he doesn't... It's kind of the same way that, like... It's the same reason that Garp and Whitebeard, right? They're supposed to be, like, very comparable in strength, but Whitebeard was the guy they kept gassing up at Marineford. It's like, world's strongest man, strongest pirate, strongest, etc. They never talked about Garp like that. It makes sense because Whitebeard's devil... Like, when you've got a devil fruit power, your decline is not going to be the same because you've still... Like, that ability still functions, right? Whereas stuff like hockey and your physical stamina and abilities and stats, like Whitebeard's physical stats had declined really hard, arguably harder than Garp's, actually definitely harder than Garp's, but Whitebeard still had his fruit, so he's still like that dude, And Sengoku similarly, like he can still transform into giant Buddha, still do all that shit, Divas, thanks for the 7. Garling gets a fruit here, maybe? Inu no Mi, mythical model werewolf. Oh, Garling getting a fruit. Yeah, we can put that down. I just don't know if... It's not a guess, though, for a fruit. I'm not going to put down werewolf because that's too much of a guess here. But I can agree that it's very likely or very possible that Garling gets a fruit out of this. Anime Dimension, thanks for the 10. Part 1, I think if Dragon has a fruit, he will get it from Shank's chest, most likely some wind base. I agree. Two fruits which Rock's looking for is Yami Yami no Mi, which Rock's was not able to find, and Sun God Nika fruit. So let's put in Yami Yami no Mi, because I think that's a very solid guess. Yami Yami no Mi. I do think that's probably one of the fruits that Garp is looking for. Nika fruit. The Nika fruit, I don't know about, though, because Nika fruit, I feel like the world government wouldn't hand it out just like that. So I'm very curious about the Nika fruit. I feel like it just wouldn't be on the cards for something like this, but I might be wrong. And part 2 of your prediction, Yami Yami no Mi, that's why Blackbeard wants to find it. He might know about Sun God Nika, but does not know what that fruit does. That's why he was not able to figure out Luffy's Sun God fruit. Yeah, I'm putting Nika fruit in, but I think the chances, I don't know. Okay, so we're not going to rank this just yet, but we'll do this as we go. We'll do that shortly. I think I may have subconsciously put Yami Yami no Mi high. I think I'd put it even higher. Mo, thanks for the 2. Prediction, Bon Clay's fruit. Rock's member in Wano. Yeah. So we got that in. Mane Mane no Mi. Empty Mind, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for a month. I'm confident young Garling is Admiral level because if he was Pirate King / Yonko level, then him getting Gorosei powers would just make him too strong right now. Also, Rayleigh beating him to save Shaki makes perfect sense. The thing with the Gorosei powers is that we've seen that they can be counteracted by just straight up Haki, right? Like we already saw, it's just it has to be higher than Luffy level Haki, but we saw that the Haki knot, it undid all 4 Gorosei transformations, right? So the Gorosei powers are strong, but I feel like one, they mainly they'll probably just add to your physical stats and some elemental abilities and stuff like that, but ultimately the regeneration is something the God's Knights already seem to have. So that's not tied to the Gorosei forms. So I personally do feel like Garling being Yonko level here would still works. Especially if his final opponent's supposed to be someone like Dragon or something like that, like someone who you can also expect to be close to Pirate King level or something like that, I think it works. I mean, it was implied that you don't even need like someone like Shanks. Shanks level Haki can counteract the Gorosei abilities is basically what was implied. So, I still think like Garling is supposed to be the strongest of the Gorosei. So him being at least Yonko level, I think that makes sense, Because it seems like the Gorosei are the culmination of like the strongest celestial dragons over the course of the last 800 years that Imu essentially like picks to save over time. So it's like if across 800 years they aren't even able to produce like one Yonko level character. Whereas like you got like a dozen Yonko level characters that just pop up in the world and become pirates in the span of 10 years, you know? That'd be kind of crazy. And really beating him to save Shaki makes perfect sense. I think I just rate Rayleigh really high. I'm just like, yeah, why can't Garling be Yonko level and Rayleigh still beats him? Like, I think Zoro would beat Prime Garling. So I'm just like Prime Zoro would beat Prime Garling. So I'm like, yeah, I don't see why it's out of the question that Rayleigh could do it. I think for some reason, people just put Rayleigh like, they're like, yeah, Rayleigh is like strong and stuff, but Zoro's gonna be like a million times strong. It's like, no, I feel like that's just disrespectful to Rayleigh. You know, Rayleigh's the one that fucking trained the next Pirate King. I just don't know how much bigger of a role Oda needs to give Rayleigh in the story for people to start respecting what he represents. I might be gassing him up too much though. It's possible I say all this and then like he gets fucking destroyed by Garling next chapter. And it's also just like old Rayleigh, who's like so far off from his prime, is nearly equal to an admiral. So it's just like, how can Prime Rayleigh not be Yonko level? Continuing on. Javon Johnson, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for 17 months. Yo, Morge, how much longer do you think the flashback will be? I'm thinking at most 10 or more, and we'll be back at Elbaf for the 30 or so chapter climax, then the final war. I think that might be accurate. So Kuma's flashback wrapped around 1102, and then we had like 20 chapters to go. Or no, a bit more than 23 or something chapters to go to finish that out. But that one didn't have a real final battle, right? That was more a mix of a lot of shit happening and Vegapunk's speech. I could see Elbaf's final battle being longer than that, so maybe 30 chapters. 30 chapters does get you pretty far. It covers a lot. Like, I think that all of Alabasta's climax, and this was back when One Piece chapters were shorter. Alabasta's climax, I think, that resolved in about 30-ish chapters, maybe a little less. So 30 chapters is a good amount to cover things. And yeah, I think if we look at it like Elbaf, so if Elbaf, we're almost at 1160, right? 1159. Yeah, I think that works. I think 10, it feels like a lot more for this flashback, but honestly, it's such an insane flashback, it doesn't feel out of the question. JP, thanks for the 10. What if Rox misunderstands Dragon saving children and tries to attack him, which incites Garp to save his own child by attacking Rox and cements his belief that pirates are the worst threat? That's interesting, because I could see Dragon trying to save young Blackbeard and that leading to some issues. I could definitely see that happening. I don't know if we need that full, because like Garp also sees the good side of it. Like, he also sees Roger and Whitebeard and stuff. He knows that there's good pirates. I think whatever evils Garp sees, it has to be from other pirates. Maybe he sees something Rox does, but I don't know. Elijah Petty, thanks for the 2. Garp wins the Hito Hito no Mi and gives it to Sengoku. Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be fucking cool. Hito, hold on. I'm trying not to rank it, so let's just keep putting it here. Hito Hito no Mi, model Buddha. That would be cool. That would be really cool. I like that. Because he knows his bum-ass partner needs a boost if he's going to actually be relevant in the future. Let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. Dick so small I piss on my balls, thanks for the 5. I like how evident it is that this is before Dragon becomes sure of himself. I think Tritoma will see a pure act of good from Dragon like Boa and Luffy. Yeah, but the thing is, what's really cool is that it's even before, like Luffy at least was still, at the time that he met Boa, he was still a very formed version of himself, largely because Luffy as a character doesn't change that much over the course of the story. He obviously changes a good amount from like childhood to teenage years, but a lot of that is just growing in confidence and certainty of himself, right? But Luffy is still ultimately Luffy, and so the Boa that Luffy meets who's already completed the entire first half of the Grand Line, is already like a worldwide notorious pirate, one of the supernovas of the One Piece world, right? Defeated multiple Shichibuka and everything, and Luffy's still very much himself at this point, right? Like he's very confident, very assured, he's very strong in his will and his convictions, right? So she gets to see all that. Dragon, I love that it's starting a story with him really before, like, forget strength and forget resources and everything. It's before he has become before he's solidified his values and his way of thinking and his approach to life and just the way he talks and his sense of confidence and conviction. None of that's there. So it's even more of, like, if Tritoma falls for him there, it would be even more of, like, genuinely falling for, like, the core person of, like, the core of that person, like, flaws and all. I think that that's a really cool idea. It's also cool that we saw Tritoma, you know, she herself is still a bit of a ways off from last we saw her, from becoming, like, the very confident Kuja pirate captain, you know, that we've seen, like, Hancock be, Gloriosa be, Shaki be, right? So I'm curious what version of her we'll see here. I'm still not, by the way, I'm still not sold on the Dragon Tritoma concept just yet, because I think it's just been too many times that we've had a new character pop up, and it's like, this is Luffy's mom, obviously Luffy's mom, yada yada. I mean, like, we've done this before already at God Valley, where it was like, Ginny showed up. Ginny was there, and people were like, this is Luffy's mom. This is obviously Luffy's mom. And then Ginny turned out to be Bonnie's mom. So I'm not falling for it again, I don't think, but I'm open to the idea. Like, I think it'd be cool if Tritoma turns out to be Luffy's mom. Ultimately, Luffy has to have a mom, right? Like, that has to be some... He wasn't just, like, born out of... well, maybe he was born out of an egg, but that's its own theory that you'd have to look up. Anyway, Tritoma's as good of a chance as any, and I think the fact that it seems clearly set up that the Kuja Pirates could make their way, Tritoma and the Kuja Pirates could make their way to God Valley, I think that that's a interesting idea. I think it's just sad to think, though, that Tritoma, like Luffy's mom, just died of lovesickness. I think that's like a kind of tragic way to write it. I know Oda wrote that he doesn't want characters to have moms because moms get in the way of adventure, but to hate that so much that he's like, well, let's just say Luffy's mom just dies. And she doesn't die of, like, she dies a slow, painful death. That's the thing. A slow, emotionally, psychologically harrowing death. Essentially, she dies from depression, which is, like, dying from lovesickness makes it more palatable. It's like, oh, that's, like, almost this sad but whimsical fantasy type thing. It's like, oh, but isn't that kind of just dying of just depression? I feel like that's yeah, that's kind of sad. How did Luffy's mom die? She fucking died mental health, man. She died from just being so fucking depressed. Okay. Anyway. Meek, thanks to the 2. Mochi fruit can't be here. Katakuri ate it when he was 5. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. All right. Nice correction. Is that accurate? How old's Katakuri at this point in time? Katakuri age. 48 years old. Okay, so yeah, that's out of the question. Okay, so that's actually a very, very interesting point then, because then do we want to be looking at... Shit, let me look at Big Mom's kids again. Big Mom, Pirates, ages. We'll look into that in a second. I also want to check this thing real quick. Hold on. I still love reading the panel that says all the fiercest warriors of the sea came to God Valley, and that means, like, okay, explicitly Sengoku wasn't here. It also means that not everyone at God Valley, but, like, the characters here at God Valley that are gathering are above Admiral level. They're pretty much, like, all the heavy hitters are above Admiral level, because Admirals were not invited to this party because they're not among the strongest warriors of the sea. What was the other thing I was looking up? I was looking up something. Oh, yeah, I was trying to look up Big Mom's comment about the What does Big Mom say specifically? Big Mom says... What the fuck does Big Mom say? Okay. They've got devil fruits too, Kaido. Could be good for my kids too. Yeah, so I like to think she picked up at least a couple fruits. Montior was born this year. Okay, so that's why people are saying that maybe it's the book fruit. Hagop says, wait, no, he ate it when he was 5, but that doesn't mean Big Mom didn't hold on to it. That doesn't make sense, right? That's headcanon? So did he not eat the fruit at that age? Montior was a baby? Okay, we'll look into the ages shortly. Let me catch up on supers, then we'll look into Big Mom pirate ages. Kinflow, thanks for the 10. Morge, quick theory. The next hunt is gonna be Elbaf, non-affiliated island. God Valley happened 38 years ago, so next one is coming up soon. Time moves differently on Elbaf, and the children are resources. I think it's been established at this point that time doesn't move differently on Elbaf, right? Like, I think we've had enough storytelling take place that it does not seem like time moves differently on Elbaf. The other thing is that there would be no reason for them to, because there's no reason for them to do a hunt on Elbaf because they're already assaulting Elbaf, right? And their goal was to make the Elbaf giants their subordinates, right? Not just kill them off like rabbits. They actually want to use the army there. So I don't know about that. Rihanna Zara, thanks for the 5. Not to be a downer, but am I the only one who thinks not all of the chests have fruits as a reward? Shaki isn't a fruit, and she's the top. Yeah, but she's also not in a chest, right? So you might be right. Not all the chests have fruits as a reward. But we're just going off the number of chests that we see, because it's fun to speculate. We see 9 chests, so we're going with that. Dreams, thanks for the 5. Bara Bara no Mi, chop chop fruit. Oh, shit. Yeah, let's throw that in there. Henchme976, thanks for the 5. I have a theory that Mihawk is actually a complete fraud who uses a devil fruit to enhance his swordplay and cheat without telling. We've never seen him swim. He must be very, very committed to the bit if he chooses to sail around, not even on a boat, but on a literal coffin, because he just wants to make it that clear to people that, look, guys, I can definitely swim. Would I be sailing on this if I couldn't? So that's an interesting theory, but I think it would be borderline suicidal for him to travel the way that he chooses to travel if that were the case. Dick so small I piss on my balls, thanks for the 5. I say Orochi's fruit because the old hag gave it to Orochi, and where better for her to get both Shiki's face and such a strong fruit. So one of the things with the Mane no Mi thing that's tricky is that a lot of people speculate that Shiki already is from Wano, just based on some design things. So some people speculate that Shiki was from Wano, and that if he's from Wano, then the hag was potentially already in Wano, and she just came across, like, she just touched Shiki's face. Shiki might have been a fucking Kurozumi, for all we know, you know? So I think that's, like, a tricky part of it. Like, it's just, like, Shiki may have already, like, he may be from Wano, and so the hag, the old dude, or whatever, they're also from Wano, and then that's where they touch Shiki. I think I lean more so towards that, personally. Because otherwise, what this would require would be, like, 2 of the fruits being, like, Kaido getting his hands on 2 of the fruits. And I think Kaido didn't get his hands on the fruits. I'm actually going to put these 3... I might be totally wrong. This might be totally off base, but I don't think Kaido won fruits over the course of this. I think the only fruit he got was the one that Big Mom got him. That's my personal feeling. I'm not going to do rankings right now, but I feel like that's what I lean towards at the moment. Sorry, that flashback was 41 years ago according to Orochi's Vivre card. Really? I thought it happened during... Wait, what? How is it for... I thought it happened during Odin's flashback. Yeah, I don't know. I think the giant stuff also, the timing does all add up at the moment. So I don't know about the time, whatever. Okay, continuing on. Anime Dimension, thank you for the 20. My point is both Yami Yami no Mi and Sun God Nika was not... Oh, both of them were not in God Valley. Rox was able to find it. Rox was not able to find it yet, and the Sun God fruit Nika was an Elbaf. If Harold ate that fruit, it will help Rox in negotiating frozen giants. So my thing with the... I definitely think it's possible that the Nika fruit was the fruit that Elbaf was holding on to. But my thing with that always throws me is that, like, why then did Rox think that Harold would be perfect for eating the Nika fruit? It doesn't make any sense to me. Because it's like... Yeah, I might take Nika fruit off this. I don't know if they would just offer that up as a reward. I think Yami Yami no Mi being an option is still valid, though. To me, it's just like... There's nothing about Harold that screams Nika fruit to me. Unless Rox thought Nika is kind of like the destroyer version of Nika that we also hear stories about. But then the Nika fruit turns out to be the very whimsical version of Nika. Kaido also had a fruit plug. I forget his name. Yeah, it's Hanafuda. But he could have gotten his fruits from him. Shattered Glass. Thanks a lot. What about Ivankov's Hormone Devil Fruit? Oh, that's a really good point. Because Ivankov actually got to the fruits chest. What's the Ivankov Devil Fruit? Ivankov was there. The Horu Horonomi. I'll just say Ivankov Fruit. I think Ivankov, if I remember correctly, got to the chest and then tossed the fruit to Kuma. JP, thanks for being a member for 29 months. Was chapter 1158 our first time seeing the top of Elbaf? Was it? I don't fucking remember seeing the top of Elbaf. Let's take a look. Let's see. The top of Elbaf. So during the clash then, right? Yeah. So it doesn't leak into the clouds. That's actually a very good point. The top of Elbaf is actually... Heaven Realm is still such a mystery. Such a mystery. Harold might be housing Rox there, like some people think. It's a very interesting possibility. Yeah, it's interesting. We have no way to scale Rox and Harold just yet. All we know is that this Conqueror's Haki Clash that they have has the largest scale lightning and everything that we've seen. But I also don't know how much thought Oda thinks and puts into like exactly how much lightning is supposed to go into each clash or whatever. JP, thanks for the 5. Imagine if the original Rox silhouette turns out to be the Dami Reversi design. That is a very, very solid possibility. That because when people started talking about, Dami Reversi Rox, I did think back to how his initial design was so much scarier than what we got later. But at the same time, it's just like Oda sometimes just plays with designs and silhouettes a little bit based on how he wants people to perceive a character earlier on. I think sometimes when it's really far back, Oda just hasn't figured out the design yet. Like Kaido's silhouette, I think Oda just didn't figure out the design way back then, right? But, for example, Loki, right? I imagine Oda always thought of Loki as being like a very strong character, but I don't think he wanted us to be hyped for Loki just yet, or realize that the Giants of Elbaf are, like, there's a crazy strong warrior in Elbaf. Because if anything, like Whole Cake, when we first saw Loki's silhouette, that was also the arc where Oda kind of shit on the Giants of Elbaf and had like 5-year-old Big Mom just like wreck them, right? So, yeah, like I think when Oda wanted us to not realize Loki's like actually a really strong warrior and stuff, so he gave him like a generic kind of like Pillsbury Doughboy type design. When in actuality Loki's like a badass warrior. And then similarly with Rocks, for the longest time we've thought that, okay, Rocks, like the evilest, most bad pirate ever, Blackbeard's predecessor. But in actuality, he's not as nasty as we saw earlier. He's got a bit of a goofier design even. I remember when Rocks' face was first revealed in this flashback, a lot of people were like, this design's not as badass as we thought it was going to be. And that's because Rocks is not purely a badass, like, villain type character. He's actually more of a morally gray character that's an anti-hero that we're supposed to root for, you know? Rocks is a classic anti-hero so far. But yeah, maybe that being Dami reversing Rocks, that could be cool. I'm saying, thanks for the 5. Can we get Bollywood Dance if Vinsmoke Romeo shows up in the next 5 chapters? If Vinsmoke Romeo... No. This is too dangerous. There's nothing... I'm never ever going to promise Bollywood Dance as a reward for anything. It is simply too dangerous. The stakes are just too high. I'm just never going to do that. But Vinsmoke Romeo, that's something that almost has me sold. I'm almost like... Maybe I could take the risk with that one. I think that one might be a safe enough bet that that's never going to happen. I feel the Vinsmoke Romeo shit is just so fucking funny because it's like... It's such uninvited Sanji slander. I feel like one Sanji fan put that out there, like, unironically, because they maybe genuinely believed it, and then it led to just this tidal wave of mockery. Because now I see Vinsmoke Romeo in tier lists, in like gauntlets. Like, does Vinsmoke Romeo clear the gauntlet? Or even funnier, where it's like, does X character clear the gauntlet? And it's like 5 options, and then the last final boss is Vinsmoke Romeo. It's there's just too many things funny about just the name and character design of this fan-made character Vinsmoke Romeo. Can we get the Streamlux up to 150 real quick? Keep it low-key, please. Thanks for the 5. Forget what it's called, but what about Hancock's Beauty Fruit? It doesn't seem like Shaki has it already. Yeah, it's the Mera no Mi. Also, people were getting on my case sometime back about, like, me arguing that, like, Shaki is clearly a lot more, like, canonically a lot more beautiful than Hancock is supposed to be, right? And people were arguing, like, no, this, that, whatever. It's like, the whole world's economy stopped when Shaki got captured. The entire world's economy. I don't think that even happened when Marineford happened. Like, the entire world's economy stopped, right? I don't think the One Piece world economy is stopping if Boa Hancock gets captured. That's just my thought. I don't think that happened, you know? All right. It went stagnant for weeks. What the fuck? What the fuck? Okay, anyway. Vinsmoke Romeo fastest in the verse. Yeah. Okay. Where are we at? Vicuna Leather, thanks for the 2. Your favorite devil fruit? Mine is Tamas. Could be in one chest. Favorite devil fruit? I mean, I think the classic One Piece devil fruit that people think of that's like a really cool fruit is like the Phoenix fruit. It's like a classic cool one. Yeah. Rihanna Zara, thanks for the 5. Heaven Realm literally feels like Oda just forgot it exists entirely. No cap. No, come on. Elbaf and everything that's happening right now is just so well planned. There's no way that's just an accident. Let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. I mean, it's possible Heaven Realm doesn't come into play, but I just don't think, yeah, I don't think that that's, yeah, I just don't think that that's, I think Oda set that up for something at the very least, because, like, he's even gone in depth into, like, in the Sun Realm, there's, like, these X number of branches, and each branch represents a different village and stuff, so if, like, you're getting into all the nitty-gritty of that, like, we don't even care about that shit, you know, I imagine Heaven Realm has something. And he got into the lore of, like, the underworld and how all that stuff was formed, yada yada. Let's get the Streamlux up to 150 real quick. Nick Dawson, thanks for the 5. We have so many greater concerns than the fruits of Blackbeard's crew, but it would be some poetic justice to find out some he acquired were tourney fruits. Yeah, that could be kind of cool. That could be kind of cool. Kunal Dashawal, thanks a lot. What if Rox saw the giant hat in Marijua while invading? That's why he thinks a giant should eat it. That's an interesting point. Yeah, that's a very interesting point. We still don't know enough about the giant hat because, like, from what we saw, Joy Boy was just a normal-sized guy. It was standing in comparison to Emeth, so we have no way of really knowing, but it didn't seem like Joy Boy had, like, the build of a Buccaneer or anything, you know? I'm saying, thanks for the 10. Do you think we'll see young Akainu in God Valley? Perhaps he is the Merida dragon, and they have a confrontation that could explain their history. Either way, I think Dragon and Akainu are very linked. Yeah, so what's Akainu's age? Is Akainu the same age as Dragon? One Piece, Akainu age. 55. One Piece, Dragon age. Yeah, he's also 55. Shit, that could be cool. That could be cool. I wonder what Akainu sees at God Valley, though, that would make him be like, I have to be a fucking shitty-ass Marine for the rest of my life now. This is the way. This is the right way. Let's get the stream likes up to 150. Because from my perspective, Akainu's always been a character that, like, is genuinely about, like, trying to promote justice for the people, not just, like, a Celestial Dragon bootlicker. It's just that his view of what justice for the people entails is so hardcore and extremist that becomes a moral problem in itself. So I can't imagine Akainu watching this God Valley tournament and people being hunted and being like, yes, this is the way I want this to be, the way things are. I don't know. But maybe we just don't know enough about Akainu's character yet to say that for certain. Random guy 123, thanks for the 5. Do you think there's a reason this flashback skipped Roger going to Loadstar Island? Is he saving it for later, or is it actually not that important? I think it's actually not that important. I think my feeling has been that like the moment Oda had Inuarashi and Nekomamushi explain to us that Loadstar is just not important, I kind of took it as like, it's probably just not important, because Oda tends to hype up the islands that are supposed to be meaningful, right? Like, he tends to hype it, like Fishman Island, Elbaf, Wano, right? Loadstar, it's kind of like, here's what I feel likely happened, which is that it's dramatic early on. Like, Oda doesn't have everything planned, but he has the big ideas planned, right? So early on when you're writing the story, like 100 or so chapters in, and now you're giving the Straw Hats the quest of, like, getting to the final island. That's where One Piece is, Laugh Tale, right? Final island, okay? At some point, like, that's the dramatic idea Oda's planting early on, and it fits with the legend Oda cooked up earlier, which is like, the legend he concocted was like, Roger's the first person to travel all the way to the end of the Grand Line and do all the islands, right? Probably as the story progressed, that's when, and some of Oda's ideas became more fleshed out, that's, I'm guessing, when he began to realize that, wait, like, last island on the Grand Line, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because it's like, why was only Roger able to get to it? Also, wouldn't that just be very easy to get to for characters that can fucking fly, or whatever? So I feel like that was part of it, and then also Oda kind of came up with the idea of, like, wait, and what if, like, actually, because I have this Yonko Emperor system set up, so what if that creates the incentive for the Straw Hats to have to take down these emperors to collect all the pieces to get to the One Piece? Like, I just don't know if all the road, like, I don't know if the road, my feeling is that early on in the early conceptions of One Piece, before everything was really fleshed out, right, like, Oda was just thinking, like, there's this final island that they need to get to, this final last island, and only Roger got all the way there before. And then as the story progressed and Oda began to come up with, like, more elaborate ideas, it was like, okay, what if they have to collect 4 pieces to get to this island, so on and so forth. And so once it's like, collect 4 pieces to get to the X marks the spot in the center, then it kind of became like, okay, well then the actual final island geographically in the Grand Line is not that important. So I can just inform the crew that that's not really important. There's no point even in really having Roger find out about that, like, or show Roger finding out about that. Like, that's multiple times, right? In Zou, we're told that, you know, Loadstar exists, but Loadstar itself is not important, just getting the road poneglyphs is. In Odin's flashback, Roger explains this, like, I got to Loadstar, and the important thing I learned there is I need to collect these road poneglyphs, right? So if Loadstar is just a place where you learn, like, a big part of the Loadstar thing, why I don't think it's going to be that important, is just that we've already learned the information that is important to learn from there, right? it'd be one thing if we got to Loadstar and then there's this dramatic reveal that, like, here's how you get to the One Piece. You need to collect these 4 road poneglyphs. But we've already been told what we're going to be told if we got to Loadstar. So that's my only thought as to why maybe it's just not going to be that important for the Straw Hat's journey or Roger's journey to show him getting the Loadstar. That's my only thought. But actually, I could easily imagine with the God Valley flashback as it progresses, we could get a quick flashback to Roger getting the Loadstar and the things he learned there. I think that could happen. I think I'm giving my reasons more so why I don't think it's important for the Straw Hats to go to Loadstar, but we could get a flashback for Roger's perspective. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. JP, thanks for the 5. What if we have it backwards, and Gunko was always a celestial dragon that Brooke met during a reverie, loving her mystery just in the background casually? The thing is that something bad happened to Gunko's father, and like if Gunko's father is a celestial dragon, then what could have happened? Maybe Imu did something to Gunko's father, a celestial dragon. Maybe that's possible. Like, maybe it was a good celestial dragon that, like, that rebelled or did something like that. And then Imu fucking killed him and turned his daughter into a slave. I could see something like that happening. Into his puppet. Keep it low key, please. Thanks for the 5. God Valley will be a canon event that inspired Roger to travel the world after seeing Rox get betrayed. Oh, canon event like in Spider-Man? Yeah, I could see that. But he already would have gotten the quest from Loadstar, right? I don't know. Let's see. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Mo, thanks for the 2. Prediction, Katarina Devon, 9-tailed fox fruit. I think we need a bit more juice as to why that makes sense. Other Worlds JT, thank you for the 20. I think Admirals of the past were weaker than the current generation Admirals. No Admiral on God Valley. Maybe not designed for Conqueror's Hockey users. Sengoku heavily relied on Devil Fruit. Current gen Logia plus strong normal Hockey gives them boost over the past. I mean, I think that's possible, but if you just look in terms of, like, what we... I mean, the current Admiral lineup is weaker than the one we had even pre-time skip, right? The current Admiral lineup is, because right now we have Fujitora, Kizaru, Green Bull, but pre-time skip we had Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru, right? So I think maybe that's like a shade stronger. I think it's solidly stronger, right? Like, I think Green Bull, Akainu, there's a solid difference there. But if you're saying in general, in modern day terms, the Admirals are stronger, I'd say it's definitely possible. It's tricky because, like, we just don't have good measuring points as comparisons, right? We do know that characters like Garp, like Prime Garp, are solidly above the current Admirals, like clearly, right? But Prime Garp is also above the Admirals of his era, so that doesn't tell us that much. It's just hard to say. It's very, very hard to say. We don't have anything really strong to go off of, because the characters that cross over are like... Zephyr, I think, is canon. It's really just Garp, Sengoku that carry over. But even during that era, Oda was kind of like having Roger say, like, unless you bring Garp or Sengoku, no one's going to be a challenge. But, you know, like, I felt like Sengoku at Marineford was clearly, like, at least Admiral level, the way he was kind of portrayed. And Garp, obviously, right now, is at least Admiral level from what we saw. It's just hard. We're not going to be able to know what the Admirals were like during their time, right? So you could say that maybe the caliber of Admirals was lower, but it's just, we just don't have a really good way to guess at that, or like measure how it could have stacked up. Yeah, we just don't have a really good point of comparison. I'm saying, thanks for the 20. Do you think it's possible to not hate Garp after this flashback? I can see how Roger can work with rocks, but I can't see how Garp could switch sides and still be known as the Marine hero. P.S. Vinsmoke Romeo, Pirate King tier. Vinsmoke Romeo is above Pirate King tier. If he exists, he's up there with Emu and Joy Boy. That's for sure. I think we need to wait and see. I think with the Garp stuff, we need to wait and see, because there's characters that Oda clearly wants us to like, right? Like, we're supposed to like Garp. We're supposed to like Roger, right? So just because Rox is the protagonist so far of this flashback, I think we will still come to like Roger and Garp once we see their actions here. I think a lot's being hidden from us. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Keep it low key, please. Thanks for the 10. Off topic, but do you think Oda writes so many bad fathers that ignore their kids for the greater good because of his own work-life balance? Also, God Valley is very father-themed. So it's tricky. I think a large part of it is because it's a lot of factors. It's a lot. First, let me address this. God Valley is very father-themed. Yes, we've got a lot of father-son connections coming in here. Garling with Shanks Shamrock. Rox with his kid, obviously. Teach. Dragon and Garp, and potentially how this plays into Dragon and Luffy parallels. There is a lot of that. And Elbaf in general is very fatherhood themed. So that's an interesting thing that you bring up. Man, I still wonder if like we have time in Elbaf for shit like Yasop showing up and interacting with Usopp. I don't know. But what was I saying? I think that the very simple reason that Oda writes bad fathers that ignore their kids and dead mothers is because Oda said it himself, that he said that like mothers are the antithesis to adventure or something in some interview, so that's why like you can't have mothers around, right? And the idea of One Piece is very much a story where like it's freedom, romanticism, just embracing adventure, open world, etc., right? So because all of his characters are essentially in the flow of adventure, right? Like just embracing the open world, exploring. By sheer virtue of that, the setting and the type of story he's trying to tell, you inherently have to have fathers that are leaving their kids behind. That's just the way it is, right? That's just it's fundamentally the way the story has to be written. Otherwise, everybody would be shacked up like at home or something, right? This is not Naruto where like characters are stationary or something like that, and people live in still family bonds or whatever, right? So just by virtue of having a setting where characters set off to sea, leave all of their past stuff behind, it just inherently lends itself to that. Oda also says that he writes the story largely geared towards like boys. His favorite theme in the story, he said, is like manliness or something like that. He's literally said that in an interview. So with those things in mind, it is like a male-centric sort of romanticized life, which is like no responsibilities, just freedom to go out, explore the world, have manly adventures, things like that. And if you have a kid back home or whatever, yeah, you should probably be back home with the kid, but we're not going to treat that as a big deal in the story. In fact, the kid's still going to idolize you. Like, it's just more of a... It plays more into that fantasy, if that makes sense, It's not like real world where it's like, okay, if you're a parent, you have responsibilities, you should pay child support. Especially if the mom fucking died, then you should probably be taking care of the kid. But it's just the way it is. Ali H, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 34 months. W. Morge, wait, where did it say that there's 9 devil fruits on God Valley? How/why do you think Harold will be Dami reversied after helping Rock somehow? So this is really fucking complicated. I think like for the 9 devil fruits, we're just going off of the panel. So the panel at the end of chapter 1159 showed 9 devil fruits, so we're just going to base it off of that. As for Harold being Dami reversied after helping Rocks, I feel like it may be something tied to the discovery that Harold saved Rocks or something like that at the end of God Valley. I think it might be tied to that revelation that Harold did not, in fact, get rid of. I think he might have come in clutch to save Rocks at the end of it. So I think that could be a revelation, and then Imu might Dami reverse Harold as punishment. It's possible then that Gunko was one of the people that came to the island earlier, right? Like during that whole incident to help steal the devil fruit. And in the process of that, it was somehow discovered that Harold had let Rocks survive or saved Rocks or helped Rocks or protected some piece of Rocks' legacy or something like that. No, now this is very complicated actually, because it could be something like Harold saving rocks like that, or maybe Harold protected a fruit from God Valley that he shouldn't have. Like maybe rocks passed on a certain fruit to Harold from God Valley. And that was discovered when the world government went to, steal shit from Harold. Like steal the devil fruit from Harold. Shit, that's interesting. I don't know. Okay, do we have any other pitches for devil fruits? Give me a second. I'm actually gonna grab might grab a quick soda real quick. 1 second. I'll be right back. All right. All right. We're back. Nobody panic. All right. The jacket fruit? I love the jacket fruit. Beer time? No, this is a Diet Coke. This is what? Diet Orange Cola. All right. Anyway. Or original cola with lime. So did they actually used to put cocaine in Coca-Cola? Was that a real thing? If so, why did they stop? Because well, I guess that's the obvious reason, but is there a way that you could try some of that today? Keep it low key, please. Thanks for the 5. What if Roger and Garp were Dami reverse heat to kill? They were Dami reverse heat to kill Zebek? They have no memory, and Emu made Roger king that day. Also, I guess Shadow Fruit. Oh, shit. Roger and Garp being Dami? No, that'd be fucking insane. I think that'd be very tragic. That would just change my whole view of Roger. Regulations? Yeah, but it's just is there a way we could try that shit? Because, imagine how much they must have really fucking liked Coke back then. Yeah, it's not orange cola. It's original. It just says original Diet Cola with lime. Rihanna Zar, thanks for the 5. Oda retconning the chest number from 6 to 9 makes me believe the contents are more important than just, hey, look, the mochi fruit came from here. Neat. Yeah, but does that also mean that maybe the contents are less important? Because, if the contents were very important, then wouldn't Oda have known the number from the beginning? I wonder if it's just to make for a cooler spread that he made it 9. You know what I mean? If it was just... Because if you know already the correct number that it's going to be... And it's not Chapter 1096 wasn't that far back, you know? I don't know. It kind of was that far back. It was pretty far back. Let's get the Streamlux up to 200 real quick, because we're almost there. Carabarus fruit. Oh, man, that's I think the Cerberus fruit is lame, unless it has some other ability. It just seems like a big dog fruit, you know? I don't see why Oda gave that to Shamrock, personally, but... it doesn't... I mean, Cerberus, it makes sense. It's part of the underworld, so that's where it debuts. But, it's just such a random fruit to give him. I mean, we don't know much about Shamrock right now, but, it just seems like a boring fruit. Ali H, thanks for the 2. Why assume Emu can only possess Gunko and no others? So maybe Emu can possess the others, but there's something odd about Gunko that we've all been slowly noticing, which is that, one, she's the only God's Knight that doesn't age, right? So there's something specific about her, right? The other God's Knights have the ability to heal, but they can't and regenerate, but they can't. They can't. They don't have the power to stay the same age, right? They're not. They're not ageless, right? So that's one. So that's odd. Then two, a lot of people speculate that Gunko might be the woman that speaks to Imu in the flower room. That's two. And then the biggest thing is that Gunko is the one God's Knight that we've seen that has like strangely repressed memories, right? Like there's some mental part of her that is blocked out. Like memories began to flood in when she saw Brooke, right? But then her mind got taken over by Imu. So she's the one God's Knight that isn't her normal self, even ordinarily. And then she's got, the different eye colors and everything like that. Everybody, like, there's stuff about Gunko that makes it feel like she's different from the other God's Knights. So it seems like the feeling, right, is that it seems like she might be a God's Knight that is once had much more autonomy and wouldn't ordinarily want to be a God's Knight, but became selected to be a vessel for Imu whenever Imu chooses. That's like a theory, obviously. We don't know if that's true. But it's also interesting that Imu doesn't choose to like possess like Sommers or whatever from Elbaf, even though Sommers is maybe a more senior. Well, actually, we can't tell if Sommers is more senior. He might be the same age as Gunko. We can't tell. Maybe Sommers is younger, actually, now that I think about it. We can't tell. It's possible that Imu can possess others. It's definitely possible. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Yeah, she is a saint. The simple fact that she wasn't a saint created so many theories and speculations, and sometimes it's just like, oh, it's because you can never predict this, which is that, oh, Oda just made a mistake, right? That's not possible to predict. Henchme976, thanks for the 2. Could Mr. 1 mate with a sword that ate the Hito fruit? Yeah, for sure. I was gonna make a joke about that dog, but we'll leave that alone. We'll leave that alone. Anyway. Katakuri's fruit was eaten already. Katakuri's fruit was already eaten by Katakuri. Okay, so let's take a look at some of our guesses. Yami Yami no Mi, solid guess, right? Do we think the Nika fruit makes sense? I don't think the Nika fruit makes sense, but I mean, I could be totally fucking wrong. I wonder even if, like, I mean, a random theory is like, we're trying to figure out what Harold's mistake was. What if one of those chests has the Nika fruit? Rox opens it up, realizes it has the Nika fruit. Harold has come to help him. Rox just gives him the Nika fruit and tells him to go back to Elbaf with the Nika fruit, right? So now Elbaf houses both the Nika fruit and the special Elbaf fruit, right? That's an interesting possibility right there. So I'll say Nika fruit is a possibility. They said it eluded them for 800 years, but I thought they meant that it always slips out of their hands, and this would be yet another example. Sheriff Laffy, thanks a lot for the 5. Homing and Mjosgard show that the barest hint of decency is rooted out by celestial dragons. It makes me think Gunko's father was the same. Yeah, that's very possible. That's very, very possible. I think it's... Maybe Gunko did show some bit of... Sorry, Gunko's father was like a not obedient celestial dragon or whatever, and then got punished for that. It'd be really interesting if maybe he was a former Gorosei even. That'd be cool. Mr. 9 says Gunko stocks her up. She was at God Valley and she wasn't afraid of Gaban. I don't think Gunko's all mentally there, though. Keep it low key, please. Thanks for the 5. What if Gunko is Emu's next body, a random person that is said to be the next body for the Ope Ope fruit to switch to after previous body has run its course? That's an interesting idea. I wonder why Emu would need to do that if he has immortality, but that's a very interesting idea. Maybe Gunko was selected for that beforehand, and then Gunko's father didn't want that, and then that led to Gunko's father being punished or whatever. Gunko doesn't look inbred. Gunko does have that eye situation going on. Which is interesting. Maybe Gunko is something like a star plasma vessel. That was something that was what I was thinking of when I saw that comment. I actually watched Jujutsu Kaisen episodes just yesterday. Just feeling like watching some action. I'm excited for the culling games. Nandu V, thanks for the 2. Ranking of your post-time skip arcs with Elbaf so far. It's just very hard to rank an arc that's in progress, because like whenever an arc's in progress, I feel like bumping it up. No, that's not true. When an arc's in progress, it can depend. Cause my post-time skip arc rankings are currently probably something like, okay, so let's say we got Fishman Island first, right? Then I like Punk Hazard better than Fishman Island. I like Dressrosa better than Punk Hazard. I liked Zoe better than... I think I liked Zoe better than Dressrosa. Like when Zoe first came out, I loved Zoe. I really fucking loved Zoe. And Zoe was a moment that also made me kind of regain faith in... This was before content creation anything, right? Zoe kind of made me regain faith in One Piece because at this point, we were like 150 chapters deep into the post-time skip. And it just felt to me like something was kind of missing, like some characteristics of Oda's writing that I really loved. And I couldn't put my finger on it. And then Zoe had the moment, which was Raizo Dono is safe. And then that really hit me. And I was like, this is what these are the type of moments that I go to One Piece and One Piece alone for. And it's just hard to describe. Like, just really strong, powerful, hard-hitting, feel-good writing that you don't really expect. And it feels like it comes from a creative story angle. So Zoe gave me a lot of hope, and then it had all the crazy lore reveals afterwards, and then the Zunisha Jack shit at the end was a nice thing on top of that, and then it also set up really well for like a lot of hype for the upcoming battle with the Yonko. So I loved Zoe when it first came out, and not coincidentally, Zoe is also the first One Piece arc post-time skip that was tighter in terms of its cast of characters. It really focused on the Straw Hats and then a few of the Minks and everything, but it was crew-centric, focused on the crew's goals, like them learning, like it told a nice little side story for the Minks, and then the rest of it was focused on the crew's next moves, crew's internal conflicts with Sanji leaving, what to do next with the Kaido situation, Big Mom situation, what they need to do next with the road poneglyphs, yada yada. So Zoe felt like a breath of fresh air. Now I don't value Zoe as much because I feel like a lot of the hype stuff that happened in Zoe, now I kind of take for granted, the lore reveals that happened in Zoe, now I kind of take for granted. In that, like, now we've been knowing this lore for so long, it doesn't hit the same when I read it again. And then on top of that, a lot of the stuff that I got really hyped up from after Zoe was like the Wano arc and like the battle against the Kaido and the Shogun of Wano, the stuff that was hyped up then, and then the supposedly tragic story with like the Scabbards kept talking about and everything. And so a lot of Zoe was built off of like lore reveals, hype, and lore reveals generally aren't as impactful later on down the story that you go, because now you have way more lore reveals than back then. Hype didn't really follow through from Zoe, so I don't feel as excited when I read it again. And then on top of that, the character stuff, Raizo Dono and Safe, I still love as a character moment, but I feel like Inuarashi and Nekomamushi kind of peaked as characters right after that and weren't as interesting afterwards and kind of became a little bit annoying afterwards. And then Raizo was kind of lame too. So Zoe's hard for me to place because I loved it when it came out, but now when I reread it, the three things, the character stuff, the lore, the hype, None of those things have the same level of weight anymore. I guess I'd still put Zoe high. Maybe I should rate it more based on how I felt initially. Then Whole Cake Island. So you can see for me, I felt like post-time skip, a lot of it was an upwards trajectory for me. And that was exciting. Wano I put low. But here's the thing. I used to put Wano as my least favorite arc in One Piece. Honestly, after having worked on the Wano analysis quite a bit, and watching more of the Wano anime episodes, I can see why people who watched Wano in the anime and remember the fights have a different opinion. It's hard for me, like, when I think of Wano to not think of, like, the epic, Zoro versus King or Luffy versus Kaido fight that I watched in the anime episodes. And I've gone back and rewatched Sanji versus Queen episodes, Robin versus Black, all the Strahd fights, pretty much. And the other part is, like, doing the Wano analysis, it does remind me of, like, how much went bad with Wano, but then it also gives you some things to appreciate, too. It's not going to be an all-negative analysis. So I think I enjoy Wano more than Fishman Island. And more than Punk Hazard. The tricky thing is, if we're going by first read, I loved Punk Hazard. I actually really loved Punk Hazard the first read. Because I was just excited to be in the fucking New World. I was excited to be in the New World. And for me, like, every drip of information that we got was just exciting. Law versus Smoker, phenomenal fight to kick the story off on. To date, probably the best Devil Fruit battle that we had in One Piece. Low-key. I've said this before, but genuinely, like, the story's become so hockey-centric in recent times that in terms of just an extended fight that is just getting to see two relatively advanced Devil Fruit abilities, Law's Complex Fruit and then Alogia, just go at it, with the entire fight essentially being about different uses of their abilities, and kind of seeing, like, Law try to essentially trap Smoker. That's probably, this might sound silly, but, like, I think it's the best display of, like, Devil Fruit fighting in One Piece. Because outside of that, you get into, like, cool power clashes, like, I guess, like, Law versus Blackbeard or something like that, but this felt more creative. Maybe Luffy Kizaru is a good example too, but Luffy Kizaru, at least in the manga, it almost felt like it could have been more. We kind of wanted more out of that one, I would say. The anime makes Luffy versus Kizaru look amazing. But yeah, I think just in terms of Devil Fruit creativity, so Law versus Smoker was really cool. Then we're getting drips about, like, oh shit, Akainu Akiji fought here. We're getting set up like, oh my god, like, we're going to be going to fight a Yonko starting from here. And then on top of that, Kid and the like underworld brokers, like, what's going on with this stuff? Like, there's a whole world for us to explore out here. And then the Doflamingo setup, like, Doflamingo's coming around the corner. Doflamingo is, like, one of my most anticipated hyped villains coming out after Marineford. So it felt like Punk Hazard just... The story of Punk Hazard itself, I didn't find that engaging. But all of the exciting stuff it felt like it was setting up just had me so pumped up. And that was... like, I was very patient as a reader. So I was, like, down for more setup period to get to the next thing. Now reading Punk Hazard feels more like a slog. So... similarly, Wano, I loved reading Wano week to week for a long time. I put out a video defending Act 2 back when people were shitting on Act 2 while it was happening because nothing was happening. And then as Wano went on, I was just like, okay, now I'm just not liking it, yada yada. And now in deep retrospect, I think as a straight up standalone arc, I like it better than Punk Hazard. Like, I would reread Wano before I read Punk Hazard and Fishman Island if I go by that standard. I think the fights from the anime do skew things for me a little bit. Because the fights from the anime just made me feel like, you know what, maybe Wano was more epic than I imagined. But a lot of that is just good animation, good scene direction. And that only really works because I get to skip, like, the other 95% of the anime episodes of Wano that were, like, basically just crawling along at a snail's pace. Whole Cake, I think I do still have Egghead above Whole Cake. I go back and forth on this, and right now I'd put Elbaf at the top. So for me, post time skip has essentially been generally an upwards trajectory, slowly getting back to the things I liked about pre-time skip One Piece. Elbaf has a ton of stuff that I love from pre-time skip One Piece. And then Wano was the one place where it felt like a regression for me, because otherwise it would have been upwards trajectory of like Fishman Island through Punk Hazard, through Dressrosa, Zoe, Whole Cake, and then we hit a peak with Wano. For me personally, Wano was not a peak. It was just a messy conclusion. And so then that was almost like a reset. And it's like, okay, well, my faith in One Piece was somewhat shaken again post Wano, but then Egghead picked it up. And now Elbaf I'm loving. So this is kind of long answer to this question, but this is kind of my general post-time skip One Piece rankings. If I were to give you a quick idea of how I rank pre-time skip things, right? So pre-time skip, I think none of my pre-time skip rankings are, I'll just quick, not the full thing, right? But Enies Lobby, let's say Water 7 Enies Lobby, Marine Ford, Alabasta, Arlong Park, and then I get into probably Saboti, Impel Down. Okay? That's all that really needs to be ranked here. And I would say right now, Elbaf has passed up. I think Whole Cake doesn't top any of these for me. So it's more like, where would Elbaf and Egghead land? I think Egghead I might put above Impel Down, but below Saboti. But I'm not sure. It's hard to rate because Saboti is just such a short arc. It's so damn tight. It's such a tight arc. Like, Egghead has so much good shit, but also, like, some boring parts and some questionable conclusion, but, like, still a cool conclusion. And it's got amazing stuff, like Kuma's flashback. But Saboti, it's just, like, 20 chapters that are all really fucking good. Especially, like, the last 15. It's hard to rate Saboti, or last 13 or whatever. It's very hard to rate Saboti. Yeah, I think I got Egghead maybe here. And then Elbaf right now would be tracking to be around here. It'd be tracking to be in the top. What did I just do? Yeah, Elbaf is, for me right now, tracking to be somewhere in this top 5. I don't imagine it cracking these two. This has a lot of nostalgia for me, so it's hard to crack that, as does this. But I think Elbaf, I believe it'll be somewhere in this top 5 for me right now. Okay, long tangent over, but you guys got me thinking. All right, let me catch up on what I got to catch up on. Let's get the stream links up to 200 real quick. Yeah, it's just the tricky thing with Saboti and Egghead is like they're very similar arcs. Like they play off of each other, right? Like, in fact, Egghead literally, it brings things full circle from Saboti, which is like, you know, the Strats are back and now they're 100 times stronger. Same challenge, Kizaru, Kuma, Sentomaru, the whole gang's all together, Bonnie, right? It brings things full circle. But the arcs are very different in that, like, they're very similar in that it's like the world government trying to crack down on the Straw Hats. And the first time around, it was a massacre. The second time around, the Strats are, like, not easily, but, like, the Strats do fine, right? Like, they're all good. But the tricky thing is that I think the tricky thing with Egghead is just that it's also very not Straw Hat centric. It's really all about the side characters. So it's hard for me to compare because Saboti's just this, like, they both do a lot for world building and stuff. Egghead is a much more expansive story, has much crazier, more exciting things happening in the outside world that we get to cut away to. But Saboti just has, like, it's just a series of, like, very iconic moments. Obviously, like, the introduction to the Celestial Dragons, obviously. It's like, Saboti is just, yeah, it's really, if you really think about it, right? if you're reading Sabaody, you're going from like introduction to the Celestial Dragons, so right off the bat, that's significant. Then introduction to the Supernova, so that's really, really exciting right off the bat. Then introduction to Rayleigh, which is fucking crazy, right? And then right after that, Luffy punching the Celestial Dragon, one of the most iconic moments in One Piece, some would argue Luffy's best moment in the whole story. Then this whole Roger Rayleigh flashback, right? And then right after that, it's just like battle after battle after battle that are all really cool. And then the iconic scenes of like the Straw Hat's entire dismantling, right? So, and that all happens in about 10 chapters. So you could like Sabaody has maybe the strongest run of One Piece chapters ever, you could argue, in terms of just iconic event after iconic event. Like everybody remembers every single significant thing at Sabaody. Egghead is a much more expansive arc that also has a lot of crazy stuff happen. It's just more spaced out, and it's got a bit more ups and downs. Kuma's backstory is very, very emotional. It's hard to compare the two. Very, very hard to compare the two. It's kind of like, how do you compare, like, a video game that's like a giant, like, 100-hour experience with some ups and downs versus, like, maybe a video game that's like a 10-hour experience that's like really, really tight, but it's just less gameplay overall. I don't know. Yeah, let's get the streamlights up to 200 real quick. Rihanna Zara, thanks for the 5. I believe Emu possessing Gunko is extremely rare, and Emu spared no expense giving her the immortality surgery and major brainwashing and all of that. Yeah, I imagine it's really, really rare. I imagine it probably only happens in moments where, like, Emu really wants to have an active presence in, like, current events. Like, he needs to take action, which is very rare. Because, like, we know here's the general hierarchy of how shit goes in the, like, from the Celestial Dragon's point of view, right? General shit that just is the basic stuff that needs to be done, that's the Marines' job. Marines, rank and file, you do that, right? If it's something a bit more private, a little less savory, right? A little bit more like, okay, we're doing this on the down low, and it's more of a specific order from us, that's CP0, right? So Marines, you do all of the big stuff, keep the world clean, take care of all that. CP0, you do our specific commands, right? Then when it comes to, like, it seems like when it comes to very high-level stuff that's, like, that's also a bit more, like, specific missions, right? That's when you pull in the God's Knights. And so the God's Knights are like the direct force of the Celestial Dragons when they really want to get their own hands dirty. And like CP0 is not going to cut it, and you're not going to assemble like all the Marines to do this necessarily. So that seems like when the God's Knights get involved, right? Like dealing with Elbaf, like the world's strongest nation or something, okay? That's what it seems like so far. And then on very, very, very rare occasion, it seems like the Gorosei gets sent down. Gorosei presumably are composed of the strongest God's Knights over the course of history. That's what we saw why Garling got promoted. That's why all the Gorosei seem to be generally very, very strong characters, right? Like Admiral-ish. So Gorosei seem to be composed of the strongest God's Knights of history. So like once in a blue moon, for whatever reason, like something like Saturn gets sent out. Like it's like the whole world hangs in a balance or something like that. That's when like, you know, we need to go take care of this Vegapunk situation. That's when Saturn gets sent in, right? You need some top-level C-suite oversight, essentially. And then when shit just hits the fan, and it's just like, okay, I just need to solve this right now and use maximum power to do so, that's when Emu steps in. That's what it seems like to me right now, so far, the general hierarchy of Celestial Dragon involvement. So Emu is being sent in right now to Elbaf, not because the God's Knights can't handle Elbaf, because so far it seems like they can. They didn't expect Luffy to be there, so that's like the wrench in the works. But the real reason Emu's being sent to Elbaf, or Emu's coming down to Elbaf, is not because he's needed to subjugate Elbaf. It's because Marijua itself is under assault, and Emu's getting pissed that they're not back there. That's the only reason Emu's in Elbaf right now. It's not like Emu needs to come down to fight Luffy himself. It's more like, we need all of our forces right now, and for some reason, you guys are taking too long. So he just snapped as a boss. So an instance like Marijua being attacked, that's when and everything is on fire or whatever, that's when Imu's going to be like, okay, now I need to take action. That's what it seems like so far. I would bet that God Valley would be a similar scenario. Like, obviously, Marijoa is not under attack right there, but it's possible that things are so high stakes at God Valley that Imu feels the need to intervene because the God's Knights can't seem to handle it there, I imagine. And then the Gorosei, maybe not, so then Imu has to come in. I don't know. We'll wait and see. I hope that Imu's able to come in. Ignorant Weed, thanks for the 2. Are you hyped for the return to Elbaf? Not right now, but I am hyped for what, like, how do I say this? We've had this before, like, however epic the flashback is, Oda knows that cutting back to the main events of the story it still needs to feel like that is the climax, right? So if you remember, we already had this sort of experience before with, it's not the same as a flashback, but in Egghead Island, what was happening was the Straw Hats are doing all their shit in Egghead, and we'd kind of hit a somewhat boring section of the arc where, like, okay, we fought CP0, not a big deal. Now we're going around trying to solve who's the traitor or whatever. It's York, whoop-de-doo. Like, that whole section of the story where everybody split up to do Scooby-Doo stuff, I remember as a content creator, viewership was, like, at an all-time low. It was, like, nobody was tuned into One Piece during that period of time. I mean, people obviously were, but it was, like, slower. It was just a slower period of the story. And the spikes and hype and everything happened when, like, Oda started cutting away. It's like, well, here's what's happening with Shanks and Kid. And here's what's happening with the Garp raid on Hachinosu. And here's what Saba's doing over at the Reverie with Imu and the Gorosei and everything. So it's like all of a sudden Oda set aside the Strides and cut away to all sorts of other crazy interesting characters with a crazy interesting conflict. But then the way the narrative was set up was that at first it was like, oh, this is so much more exciting than the Straw Hats. But by the time all of that wound down and Oda was done doing all of his other character stuff, and he cut back to the Straw Hats, chapter 1089, when you cut back there, and it's like, okay, now we understand the ramifications of what led, or not the ramifications, the lead up of what led to the Lucia Kingdom destruction. We understand what's happening now with, like, what the real significance of Saturn sailing towards God Valley entails, right? We understand what is at stake with Vegapunk and the Mother Flames. And now, like, if you go back and read 1089, like, we're getting all these cuts of all the chaos happening across the world. And then we cut to the Straw Hats, right? The entire Buster Call approaching them. And the Straw Hats with York as captive. And the conversation with the Gorosei. That was really epic. And suddenly we were all very, very excited. Like, I remember it was like just a surge of hype. It was like, holy shit, now the Straw Hats fight is going to begin. Because even though initially the Straw Hat stuff wasn't that exciting, and it felt like cutting away to all this outside stuff was more exciting, what Oda was really doing was setting the stage for us to care a lot more about the conflict that is coming to the Straw Hat's doorstep. Okay? And he did that very effectively. So people were really, really pumped for the Buster Call that was coming, and what's going to happen when Saturn gets there. How much is this going to spiral? I think the hype hit its peak probably when all 5 Gorosei arrived, because at this point we've gotten the build-up. We've gotten the excitement and understanding of, like, how big of a deal the Gorosei are. We wanted to see all of them in their Zoan forms and everything like that because of the Sabo Reverie stuff, right? So in that same vein, I feel like we will be really hyped to go back to Elbaf and fight this conflict after God Valley, because what God Valley is going to do is it's going to give us so much, like, a lot of what's missing right now in Elbaf will be filled in by the God Valley events, because if God Valley continues on and basically gives us context as to, like, maybe we get to see, like, Gunko possessed Emu, or Emu possessed Gunko, at God Valley, and we get to see Emu possessed Gunko fighting against Roger and Rox and Garp and the ancient legends. And maybe we find out what the legendary fruit of Elbaf is in the process of this, right? And maybe we find out what God's Knights were the ones that, like, were responsible for stealing the fruit, and, like, what happened with Harold and everything like that, right? Giving us so much context on the characters, like the villains, and the conflict from the past, and how powerful Emu is is going to make it way more exciting when we cut back to the present and we're like, holy shit, that's everything that happened before. And now there's no need to wait. The next thing that's happening is the Straw Hats, our main characters, are going up to fight against those same villains from God Valley from 40 years ago. Like, I think that that's really good storytelling on Oda's part. It was obviously already exciting before this flashback even began. I think people were excited for the coming conflict. But this flashback, it's not only going to tell a really good story on its own, it's going to set the stage for us to understand so much better the stakes of what's happening with the Straw Hats going upstairs to fight, you know, Emu and these Gods Knights and everything. I think that's really, really good, personally. So I'm not hyped for the return to Elbaf right now, because I don't want us to go back to Elbaf right now. I want us to play out the rest of this. But I think by the time we wrap the God Valley flashback, we will be really excited to go see. Like, I think we'll be more hyped for Loki shit. Like, I think by the end of this flashback, we'll have a better understanding of, like, how strong Loki is and things like that. So I think that this is, the way Oda's doing it is really good here. 1 second. Keep it low key, please. Thanks for the 5. Davy Clan was meant to inherit the Nika fruit. It's on God Valley, growing on a tree. Garling found a fruit tree, that's why they had to wait. That's a very interesting theory. But the thing is, those fruits generally, like, respawn right away in another fruit. But that's an interesting idea, that the Davy Clan was meant to inherit the Nika fruit. I like that idea. D Silva 369, thanks for the 5. I like the tiers of Yonko Commander, Yonko, and Beyond Yonko, Emu/Joyba, but still struggle to think of tiers for levels below. Do you have suggestions? Yeah, I mean, I have my own mental system, but I do think it's pretty consistent with what we see. So I like writing this out. I think it's a... I think Oda... so if you look at... Right? Like, if you look at different groups, right? Hold on. So if you look at the groups that Oda tends to do, right? You got like... How do I say this? Right? You got Yonko... then generally a bit of a gap. You got like the Yonko 1, 2, 3. And then most Yonkos have like a top tier group of officers. So that's like Toby Roppo. But also Big Mom's... how do I say this? Like, okay. If we're looking at Kaido's crew, right? Right, so we got Kaido, King/Queen/Jack, and then we got the Toby Roppo, right? So that's the organization of Kaido's crew, right? So kind of like Kaido, Gap, and then these two, right? These groups. And then after that, we've got like random ass gifters, etc. In Big Mom's crew, we've got a system that's kind of like, you know, Big Mom. Then you got her sweet commanders, which is like Katakuri, Smoothie, Cracker. And then after that, there's siblings that are pointed out as being a cut above the rest. So Capone Beige actually goes out of his way to point them out, right? He's like Sparrow, Oven, Daifuku. These are the stronger siblings among Big Mom's crew. He also named Compote, although we never saw her fight. And then you'd probably also add in, like, obviously fucking Snack, because Snack was a sweet commander, but just deemed not worthy to be a sweet commander. And then probably Strussen's in here as well, right? Not sweet commander level, but in there. So then, I'm not saying they're all exact copies or whatever, but it is interesting that, like, you know, these are 6, like, Perospero, Oven, Daifuku, and Compote are the 4 additional siblings that Capone Beige mentioned are, like, significantly stronger than other siblings. Snack we automatically put in here as well, and then Strussen seems to be significant as well, right? And then you get to the other officers that are significant but not as strong. You know, you got a Tamago, you got a Bobbin, you got Peckums. These characters are strong, but, like, Oda even illustrates the difference. Like, Pedro and Tamago are about equal, but then, like, Pedro immediately loses to Oven, immediately loses to Perospero. There's, like, a gap there, right? You know, characters like probably Montior and etc., right? Maybe Brule. I don't know. At this level, it might kind of get, like, a little bit hazy. But I view it as kind of like, you got Yonko levels, characters. Then you got admirals. Most crews don't have admirals because that'd be too strong. But then you got Yonko commanders. Then you got what I would call like Yonko top officers, and then what I would call like Yonko lower officers. And then even if you get to like Doflamingo's family, right? If you get to Doflamingo's family, Doflamingo's kind of got his own version of this. He's got his seats, and I just view this whole thing as scaled down. So Doflamingo is about commander level. Then his seats are probably about like Toby Roppo or top officer level. Like if Virgo was in Kaido's crew, he would be a Toby Roppo. If Virgo was in Big Mom's crew, he would be somewhere along this group. Same with like Pika or something like that. Seats, and then you got he's got his officers like Gladius, Senior Pink, Gladius, Senior Pink, Laoji, those guys, etc. And then you got some weaker ones like a Buffalo or whatever, kind of like Big Mom has some weaker ones like a Opera or something, But you see what I'm saying? So like, and this is kind of the lowest end that it goes in these crews. So like, I don't know what I call these groups, but like, if you were to look at a Yonko crew, it kind of usually, Kaido we didn't get as good of a scale of this, but like, if you were to look at a Yonko crew, it feels to me like it scales something like you've got, like named characters and kind of significant officers, like you got named guys or whatever, and then you get to actual like solid officers. This is where like Capone Beige would also go, like her knights or chess pieces or whatever. Then you get to like top officers, and then you get to Yonko commanders, then you get to Yonko. I think that's kind of how it scales. I feel like most of the mid-tier strats are in this tier right now, like Toby Roppo tier or whatever. Yeah, I feel like Strahd Grand Fleet characters are all this tier or lower. Maybe an argument. No, I think they're all this tier or lower. That's my view on it. Similar with Whitebeard pirates, like Whitebeard commanders, like you'd have Whitebeard here, Marco Josu Vista here, and then Whitebeard's random ass guys would fill out his next level of officers, his other division commanders. Same with Shanks' crew, yada yada. It just becomes less important the further down you go, because we're kind of like past that level. Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. What is Morgan's view on Luffy and the Strats, and how could that influence their meeting, especially with all of Morgan's life experience? Yeah, I'm really curious if there's some big reveal as to Morgan's identity that's coming around the corner. I'm very curious if there's some big reveal. I think Morgan's likes Luffy and the Strats. Kaido had the numbers. Yeah, maybe the numbers kind of make up Kaido's next batch below the Toby Roppo. I mean, that's kind of confirmed, actually. But yeah. It's interesting that Oda went so in-depth with the Big Mom pirates and all their abilities and everything, but with the Beast pirates, past the Toby Roppo, Oda didn't want to like put in too much effort into thinking out their stuff. Yeah, I think Morgan's likes the Strats and everything, and Morgan's likes some degree of chaos, but I think it'd be cool also if he's got some bigger agenda because he's got some actual identity or something that we'll find out later. Yeah. Hadruden going even with Tamago would be crazy. Hadruden goes even with Makvis. It's really not that crazy. That's his level. Morgan in human form is Dragon. That'd be crazy. Yeah, Kaido had headliners, but a lot of them kind of sucked. Okay, I kind of want to rank what's the likelihood of this stuff from here on. So Dragon's Fruit, I think, has a great likelihood. We don't know which one of Big Mom's kids makes sense for this period of time. Big Mom pirate ages. Is there a way that we can easily see this? I'm counting on Arthur to have some sort of a list somewhere. Okay, here we go. No, it's a YouTube video. I don't want to watch this whole YouTube video. Big Mom Pirate Ages. Is there just like a nice solid list I can see? I might have to pull up a YouTube video. Here we go. All right. Give me a second. All right. Let's see. Okay. So we're looking at God Valley. Okay. Here's what we're looking at. With God Valley, it's something like this. So God Valley, again, God Valley was exactly... hold on. God Valley was 38 years ago, right? Confirm. Or was it 40 years ago? No, it's 38 years. For some reason, I often randomly think it was 40 years ago. Okay. 38 years ago was God Valley, right? So probably the kids that she's looking for are somewhere in the, maybe like, obviously 0, but 0 to 5-year-old range. So I think the mirror fruit could be good. Because we don't know what the fuck these guys ate. Who the fuck are these guys? Did Moscato get his fruit from... Yeah. So, okay, I think the mirror fruit or the book fruit is a solid possibility. Because those are the only two prominent fruits. Yeah. Smoothie's born a few years later, but I think the mirror fruit and the book fruit are more interesting abilities. So I'm going to put those in. I think those are solid possibilities. Mirror fruit, book fruit. I think that's a solid possibility. MOH, thanks for the 2. Do you think Zoro will damage Emu/Gunko? I think that there's a solid chance that at some point in the story, if we get like a kind of like a similar setup where everybody teamed up against NL, that Zoro will get to try and attack Emu, and that Zoro will get a hit in or something like that. But we have no way of knowing. It's very hard to say just because it's kind of like... Zoro once said, even heaven will know my name, so it'd be cool if he got a slash in against God. And Zoro's talked shit in Skypiea about how he doesn't believe in God, doesn't pray to God and everything like that. But at the end of the day, Zoro didn't get to do anything against NL. But he did get a moment against Kaido. So it's like, is Oda working in more moments for possibilities for that? I don't know. I don't know if it would happen in Elbaf, though. I think if you want something cool to happen for like Zoro versus Emu or something, you should hope it happens in the final arc. Archer has a list, it's just pictures. That'd be good. $10,000 tons is a crazy feat, though. I just don't think Oda even thinks when he writes those numbers. Like, he just writes what number seems cool. Like, similar comparison is like NL's lightning attacks and stuff like that. The amount of volts that Oda has the be, it's not like an accurate number of volts. It's supposed to be a lot higher for lightning or something. But Oda just thought like 1,000,000 volts sounds like a lot of volts. So like, let's say that. It also definitely isn't enough to like create giant craters in the ground, but it can do that. So, you know. Tachyon Thunder, thanks for the 2. Josu's fruit? I don't know. It seems kind of random. Yeah, I would say in terms of likelihood, I personally think that all the Wano fruits I put lower in the likelihood. Put these ones lower, personally, because I think that they might be Wano natives, fruits from Wano natives. Ivankov's fruit, I think I put a bit higher. Ivankov's fruit, I think I put high. I think Dragon's Fruit. I think Ope Ope no Mi. Okay, Ope Ope no Mi and Nika Fruit are solid like 50-50s in that like how would the Ope Ope no Mi even get out of the world government's hands if or no, never mind. Sorry, I mean more so why would the world government even put the Ope Ope no Mi up for grabs if it's so valuable? So I put that kind of lower. Could see Phoenix Fruit. Kaido's Fruit, Kuma's Fruit. I don't think Garp brought a fruit back for Sengoku necessarily. So why wouldn't Garp just eat it himself? I think Yami Yami no Mi is a solid possibility. I'm gonna throw that in. Yeah. These are the guesses I kind of think. Show control. Thanks for the 2. What will be the catalyst for the final war? I think. I think it might be a multitude of things. It's kind of like with God Valley. There's several things happening that are leading different characters to throw their hat in the fray, right? Most of it is Shaki, but you know, for Rocks, it's more so about his family, right? For Garp, it's about Roger. So I feel like with the final war, there might be different motivating factors for Luffy to first get involved versus, you know, Dragon and the Revolutionary Army are already involved. I think the big thing that'll start happening is the world government will start blowing up islands. And I think that will force the various nations of the globe to start trying to survive. And I think that's where the ship Noah comes into play and people having to all get on Noah to survive. I think that's what brings people together and everything. I feel like for Luffy getting involved, it might be a bit more personal. Although I do think if the world's being flooded, he would have to go to war anyway. But I think the first thing that really drives him might be something more personal. I just don't know what that would be yet. Magma Fruit, that's interesting. Yeah, people mentioned that. I'll throw that in there. Hell, Somers could get a fruit, right? Maybe we see some of these celestial dragons get their fruit at God Valley. Yeah, why are the current Holy Knights Devil Fruits not on? Why are the current Holy Knights Devil Fruits on the list? You're saying why aren't they? Yeah. Let's put them in. What's Somers fruit again? Thorn fruit. Yeah, it's a solid likelihood. I guess that's pretty. We don't know how likely it is or not, right? So we got some thorn fruit. Arrow fruit. And then I remember when I thought Gunko's fruit was weak because she was using it on Loki and Loki was all tied up, and I think we just didn't. Well, I didn't realize at that point in time like the full potential of the fruit until she fucked up the Strats like that, because she was just beating up on Loki. Loki's all tied up. It didn't really tell me much. Yeah, we got arrow fruit, and then the Killing fruit, right? But Killingham's not even around right now. I'm gonna leave Killingham out. Simple Boy says, "Why is cam quality so bad, bro?" I think it's because the light is so low right now. I think that's why it is. I think I gotta fix this shit. I also have to update my OBS, so I might try and do that. I'll do that before next stream. Promise. I think young Gabon beat with his fruit. I hope Gabon doesn't fight Somers in this. It would just be so lame. Because we already saw Gabon, like ancient Gabon, low diff Somers. So how is it exciting to see? I mean, it might be fun to see Gabon just like quickly, immediately low diff Somers before moving on to somebody else at God Valley. But seeing him just have an actual fight with Gaban would not be fun. Killing him seems too young to have been at God Valley. Off-screen fruit model fat beard. All right, everybody. It is getting to that time. I think we will probably be wrapping things up. I'm very curious about the matchups now because like Garling Whitebeard is the cool matchup that probably hypes Garling more for the future. But Garling Rayleigh is like the pet matchup that I want to see that I feel like fits the story of God Valley kind of nicely and hypes Rayleigh more. But at the end of the day, we probably need Garling to be hyped a bit more because he's going to be a modern day villain. So I guess we just got to wait and see. All right, everybody. Gaban fights Big Mom or Shiki? Oh, maybe. I mean, yeah. Anything's possible at this point because even the singular matchup that I thought was the most confirmed, which was like Roger and Garp versus Rox, now that might be something different. That might be fucking Roger, Garp, Rox versus Emu. Or Dami Reversi Rox or something like there's so many, like even the singular thing that we thought was the most certain is now Oda can play with that as well. So I think that's really cool. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I think we got some good predictions in. And yeah, I think it'll be fun to see once this chapter comes out or maybe next chapter comes out, whenever the reveals come out, like which one of these fruits was actually accurate. It's possible Oda doesn't even reveal all 9, you know, like it's only going to be a few fruits that end up being really important, but yeah, it's just cool to see the options that we got here. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and yeah, with that, I will talk to you all later.